All right, hello Twitch chat. Good to finally speak to you. We had more technical issues. That's why we're a little late today. Obviously, I think you guys should hear us now. We should be good. Yeah, garbage truck on fire.
Nice.
So that was a good warm up. We were just joking about that. So let's take two here. Welcome everybody to the stream. It's great to see you all here. This is our last episode for 2020. We are doing a special episode today. We're going to do our best games of 2020. So we each kind of have a collection of games that we're going to share today. And because it's a special episode, we wanted to make this a special occasion and live stream it for everyone on Twitch. So feel free to jump into the chat, let us know your thoughts along the way, and we'll try to engage with you guys as much as possible. We are kind of recording this in a way to upload it for podcast services after the fact. So once we get through here, we'll start off the show like we normally do with our regular episodes. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the last episode of Games Are Fun podcast for the year. My name is Luke Armstrong, and I am your host. Joining me this week is Adam Beagle. Adam, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Luke. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Also joining us is Garrett Neely. Garrett, how about you? How are you doing?
Doing well. I'm ready to recap this year of games with you guys.
Yeah, definitely. And also joining us is the king himself, at Lordly King S. Dot.
Yeah,
Stephen Beagle. Stephen, thanks for joining.
Hey, not a problem. I love being here, and this is going to be a lot of fun tonight. I'm excited.
Yes, absolutely. So basically today's show is going to be all about 2020. We're going to do a top 5 for each of us. So we're going to kind of go around the table and we're going to list, obviously number 1 being our game of the year. We're going to go down, give our personal list, just kind of have some discussions about these games. We also have some other categories on there, like our biggest disappointment, favorite new old game, and then, any other games from 2020 that we played that we wanted to give one last shout out to, maybe give it as a recommendation for you guys to check out for yourself. So it's really just going to be a big reflection on 2020, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. So yeah. But before we start, we actually have a special announcement to make. So this has been in the works for a little bit there. Steven. Yeah, you. Steven is joining Games Are Fun in a full-time capacity. So yeah, crack the DP, man. Yeah, Steven, we wanted to expand Games Are Fun by another person, and we had lots of interested applicants that wanted to join in, and we appreciate everyone who applied. Steven, we felt that was the best choice for us right now. We know Steven quite well, obviously. Adam knows him the best, being related, but Steven, you
Guy's a real jerk.
Yeah.
Take it back.
Yeah. Steven is, you've been on the show multiple times before. You were on our 2019 Game of the Year episode, and Final Fantasy. You've done some episodes with Adam and stuff like that. So we already have that history working with you, and yeah, we're really excited to have you on board.
Thank you, guys. Wholly unexpected. I do a lot of messing around on my morning show, teasing you guys and stuff like that, and whenever you kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, we're gonna bring you in," it was it's honestly at this point a dream come true type of deal, and I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm gonna do well by all of you to bring my most honest and genuine opinion of the games that I play, to make sure that you stay informed with what's going on out there, and bring some even-handedness to the table here, I think, with certain games as well, which will be, I'm just ready to offer a bunch of stuff up, and I appreciate you guys for bringing me in. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we always, like, me, Adam, and Garrett, we all kind of like, I guess, kind of the same games. I think we all have our individual interests, but we also try to, like, cover everything there is to cover, right? And Steven, what I appreciate about you is, like, you have your games that you like and speak to you, and you do a really great job at like articulating why it is that you love those games and why those games are good. So you're gonna you're gonna be a great perspective to the show. So it's gonna be a whole lot of fun. So yeah,
Absolutely.
we Adam, Garrett, anything to say? Do you want to compliment Steven some more? I'm sure he'll take some compliments if you guys want to throw him.
Get
So-
out of
No,
here.
like
Give the guy a
like
bigger
he
head.
said, yeah, like he said, he gives us a little crap all the time. So
Yeah.
I don't think compliments are due at this point, but
Too soon.
I have a feeling we're gonna have some back and forth going on at some point. Kind of a little healthy banter.
Yeah, in our early days in the guest shows, me and Garrett, we're gonna have fun, you and I,
Oh,
Garrett,
yeah.
because I feel like you and I kind of we get like this
We
a
do
little bit.
in the friendliest of ways, and
Exactly.
it's awesome. I think it provides for a good like a different perspective than what myself and Adam and Luke kind of have a different dynamic. So it'll be great to have you, and I'm excited.
Right on. All right. Well, with that special announcement out of the way, let's continue on with the show. Before we get to talking about all the games of 2020, we wanted to mention that Games Are Fun is a weekly podcast. Each week, Adam, Garrett, and I, and also Steven in the new year, are joined together to talk about video game news, trending industry topics, and give reviews on recent game releases. You can find the podcast wherever podcasts are found. Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts. Just search for Games Are Fun on your podcast service of choice, and we should pop up on there. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure you consider leaving us a review. And whatever platform you choose to listen on, we'd really appreciate if you could subscribe to the show. And for you watching on Twitch right now here live, we're going to be doing a lot more live streaming in the new year. We have lots of projects in the work. That's something that we want to do, like a lot more gaming content too, because we had so much fun playing games on Extra Life last weekend that we wanted to continue that on. Yeah, so make sure you're following us here on twitch.tv/gamesarefunpodcast. All right, guys. First of all, I should make it clear to the Twitch chat and everyone listening. I did buy a bottle of champagne in celebration for a couple things. One, I got Twitch affiliate today, so that was really, really exciting. Thanks to everyone. Like, I've seen some people in the chat here that popped into the stream today. Adam, Garrett, Steven, you guys like really, really helped me out with that. So I really appreciate it. It was such a good stream this morning. So thank you guys. And
Congrats.
yeah, had to get the drink for that. But more importantly, we had to drink because this is the last episode of Games Are Fun for the year. We're going to return back in the new year with some new content. But yeah, I got a champagne bottle and I was going to bring it in and pop it on stream. But I was loosening it in the kitchen and it was like, okay, this isn't happening. And I see this going totally sideways. So I poured myself a large glass of champagne. Technically, it's Prosecco because I'm cheap. But we're here and we're ready, so it's gonna be a time.
I don't have champagne, but I did mix myself a gin and tonic. So this is not plain water. This is gin and tonic. I assure you.
I just got
I
good.
made it
old-fashioned
pretty
Dr.
heckin'
Pepper.
strong too.
I almost for the announcement of me joining the team, I almost shook it up and did the whole like
Oh,
That would have been
too
good.
many electronics.
Yeah.
Just imagine it. Imagination, everybody.
All right, guys. Let's get into it. So, where we want to start, because we figured it probably wouldn't be best to end off our game discussion with this topic. Let's get it right out of the way. Biggest disappointment. So, if you guys, I should have actually gone back and listened, but I'd like to just, out of interest's sake, if we maybe look back at the beginning of 2020 and maybe just share what going into the year your most anticipated game was, and then maybe share what your biggest disappointment. I'm interested to see if there's any correlation there because there is for me. So whoever
I guess
wants to take a stab at it.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take it. Mine was I think when we did the episode, my answer was Animal Crossing and Halo Infinite. So obviously, Halo Infinite, bit of a disappointment, didn't come out, but they're doing the right thing and putting in the work on that game and going to get it ready to ship before they actually ship it out. As opposed to some other games that I'm sure we're about to talk about. Animal Crossing, though, that one turned out well. I think we'll be talking about that one a lot tonight. So, but for me, we're about to get into it here, Steven, and Adam too. My biggest disappointment of the year was Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Ooh.
This game I thought was going to be the one that I've tried a lot of Final Fantasy games over the years, and they've always been good to me, but I've never had the hook like so many people do. And I really had a lot of faith that this was going to be the one, and just didn't turn out that way. It's not a bad game, nothing wrong with it. It just didn't click as much as I was expecting or hoping that it would for me. That said, I did kind of give up on it halfway through the game because I just wasn't having a great time. I really enjoyed it at the beginning of the game. I'm not sure exactly what changed. I think the battle system got a little convoluted for me as things went on. Just so many different, as you learn more spells, and I kind of just maybe got a little overwhelmed and probably could have just taken a step back and maybe rearranged the spells in a way that made sense to me and that kind of thing. But I got kind of frustrated with it and stepped away from it and haven't gone back to it since. And so for me, yeah, it was personally a disappointment. I know that, it was a lot of people really enjoyed it. And like I said, I'm definitely not knocking the quality of the game or saying it's a bad game by any means. It just wasn't something that aligned with me this year. And I do hope to give it another chance at some point. And, we'll do that and judge from there. So won't take up too much more time on disappointing things, but yeah, that was the one for me this year.
Hate to see it. How about you, Adam?
Sorry to disappoint.
All good. So my most anticipated game coming into the year was, I'm pretty sure I said Final Fantasy VII Remake. That is not my biggest disappointment of the year. In fact, I really like that game a lot. So I think for me, my biggest disappointment, and I'm kind of surprised this didn't come up already, is got to be Cyberpunk 2077. I'm having a really good time with the game. There's just, it seems like there's a lot of things that this game should have come packaged with that it didn't. It definitely feels like an unfinished product. And I think there's a lot of room for improvement. I think they will improve it. It's just, for me, I was expecting this absolute blockbuster of a game. I got a really good one, but not that, just absolute banger that I was expecting.
Fair enough.
Definitely fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my most anticipated was Final Fantasy VII Remake. And like Adam, not my biggest disappointment. My biggest disappointment actually goes to Ghost of Tsushima for this year. And the reason for this is whenever this game was announced, I'm like, ooh, samurai game, right?
Right.
And Ghost of Tsushima, the Ghost of Tsushima itself is a great game. The combat system is fantastic. The world is gorgeous. What really got me was the plot, because I'm expecting to walk into this as full-blown honor-driven samurai, and kind of getting that old samurai movie feel to it. I even have Japanese sub English, or Japanese dub English sub on it, so just really kind of giving it that feel. But they railroad you into that ghost role, and it affects your story. So your uncle is ashamed of you because you stabbed that guy in the back the one time, because you're playing ninja for some of the game as well, and you're forced to do it in some of these missions, and kind of railroad you into it. And along with that, I got what I like to call Skyrimmed on it, where your plot for the game doesn't hook you as well as what the rest of the world does. So I was more interested in exploring and going around in the world and doing all the stuff that was there and enjoying the scenery, taking pictures, and messing around in a samurai sense. But the plot itself just wasn't like going complete me. Go and finish the game, finish this plot, find out what happens to your character. Because as soon as they hit the railroad on me, that you're always the ghost and your family's going to hate you for it, I pretty much was just like, well, done. I'm an honorable samurai. I walk into cities and literally call out the bad guys to come fight me in the
Yeah.
streets. I'm not hopping around, the rooftops and throwing kunai and all that bull crap. Like literally stand up and fight me.
Yeah.
So. And
It's
that's what
funny.
made it my biggest disappointment for this year.
It's funny is that I know I've mentioned this on previous shows too. There's a review episode, y'all can check it out. But I'm not a stealth game player by any means. I suck at stealth games. They're just not my jam. But I loved playing as like doing the ghost play style in Ghost of Tsushima. Absolutely loved it. Playing as a ninja, just skulking around, taking dudes out, from their blind spots and everything it was a lot of fun. Granted, I like the samurai aspect too, just getting everyone's faces and fighting. But I actually really like the stealth mechanics in this game. But yeah, no, not to discount what you were saying. I'm just throwing that out there.
Oh yeah.
Fair.
Cool.
My biggest disappointment, so my most anticipated game was Cyberpunk 2077, and my most disappointing game was Cyberpunk 2077, which isn't, like I said, too surprising. And you could fault me for overhyping the game, but when you look at what happened with CD Projekt Red in that game, I mean, it's making mainstream like news at this point, right? Like I think the New York Times did a piece on it recently. It's really ramping up for them at CD Projekt Red. It's gone way, like when we saw that game and all the controversy that was coming out in those first couple days, it was one thing, but to look at how big we are now, like what, 11 days later, like it's pretty unreal. So yeah, I just, it's disappointing because, it's also disappointing in the sense that I wanted to like just love this game so I could talk about it on the show here. Because I really tied that game to games are fun. Like from the very first episode I did by myself, which was like a half hour of me giving some E3 2018 predictions. I was just like, you can hear me like talking about how excited I was. And that was before we really even seen gameplay of Cyberpunk. So, from that point up until before release, there was so much content that we covered on Cyberpunk. Myself, Adam, when you joined in, and then Garrett, when you came on this year, like think of how many, I think Cyberpunk might actually be the leading in our podcast episode titles. Cause like we clearly were really excited for that game and we wanted to talk about it. So, it's disappointing in that sense, but it's also the game just didn't hit the mark for me. Right. I should mention that I have switched over to PC, and holy crap, what a difference that made. To those who are like, well, why didn't you get it on PC in the first place? I just, I didn't think it was going to be that bad. And I just kind of wanted a game that I could kick back on my couch, throw my feet up, and just casually play it. Because I was, planning on spending hundreds of hours in it. And then it didn't work out that way. So I'm excited to replay the parts that I've played, because now they look fresh, they look great. So yeah, it's not a complete disappointment until I kind of finish that game, see how it ended and how it all unfolds. But I will say, just like, I played 16 hours on PS5, and that was not the experience I was hoping for if you asked me in 2019. So yeah,
especially whenever they delayed release just to make sure that it was finished for console, right? For the next gen consoles.
Yeah.
They took an extra month of time just to ensure that process was going to be well. And then you throw in on top like the jankiness of the game, and Sashi called it out in chat here, 2 times it's been delayed just to try and make sure everything got polished out, and they gave us an unfinished product.
Yeah.
I'm waiting, obviously. And
yeah.
me, you guys know me. Hello Games, big fan. Hi.
You promised no more. No,
I didn't say it.
That was dangerously close.
It was close. I didn't say it though. I'm hoping that you guys have that experience. I'm hoping for myself too, as somebody who's waiting to play Cyberpunk, that they take this insight and they go back to the grind on it, shut their mouths, and finish the game and give it to us the way that it was intended to be. That's what I'm hoping for. I hope they don't just leave it as it is, you know, and just have this pile of crap sitting out here that we're gonna have to deal with, and nobody gets to enjoy the game that everybody in the world was hyped for.
Right.
You know, because we were all ready for it. We were ready for this beautiful big world, this city to dive into, and it has all the pieces. It's just a crummy technical piece of crap right now, and it really sucks.
Yeah.
On console, it is. On PC, it's actually really solid. Look, it's a beautiful game, and when it's running the way it's intended, because it's clearly it's been optimized for PC, not optimized for consoles. When you get an actual optimized version for those consoles, and everyone gets a chance to experience the game as it should be, at least in the current state. Again, like I said, it still feels like an unfinished product. But to at least get it up to par with where PC is, people are going to enjoy it a whole lot more. So,
yeah, I think this is probably a good time for me to mention that I did beat the game since the last time we all talked. And so, I mean, I echo everything you guys have said still. I enjoyed what I played, but it could have been, a lot better, and it could have been closer to that revolutionary game that we all were kind of expecting. So, yeah, that's why it didn't make my biggest disappointment, is because overall with the story and how things play out in the game, I'm not disappointed. But yes, I am disappointed in the situation, obviously. So, bummer, huge bummer.
Yeah, totally. Well, I guess on that note, let's talk about maybe some. Let's start celebrating 2020
For sure.
now that we got that out of the way. And yeah, cheers. I think the first category that we'll start off with is we call this favorite new old game, which basically is a game that maybe didn't release in the 2020 calendar year, but it was a game that was our favorite go-to game that we played. Maybe it was a game that released previously and we finally got to pick it up, or it's a game that is kind of one of those go-to games that we've always played, and this year was no different. We had a really great time with it. So I guess who wants to go first? We got Garrett. Let's start with you, Steven.
Steven wants it.
Yeah,
Bring it on in. So I kind of, this is my ongoing, you said favorite new old game. Easy choice for me, because if there was any game this year that I played more than even the new games that came out, including my game of the year, it would be Final Fantasy 14. And they got snubbed at the Game Awards this year. They should have at least been a nominee, even though my favorite game that shall not be mentioned got the award. This one I feel at least should have been a nomination. And Final Fantasy 14 is one of those games that is just so dang good at around everything in it, that it is that much of a go back and play forever type of thing. And I was just mentioning this to Alicia yesterday, that this is going to be a forever game for me, it seems like, because even with, let's say for instance, in the next two expansions, they close down main story and they no longer produce content, which I doubt that's even going to be the case, because I've been digging into the lore and it's probably going to be around for a good while. There's still so much to do in the game that I'm going to be playing it for a long time. And they released two major patches this year, 5.3 and 5.4 for the Shadowbringers expansion pack, and they just continue on with this brain gripping story to keep you drawn into that kind of single player experience that they have with it, along with a whole bunch of different battles to run. And those things I've started tapping into, and it adds a whole nother level of gameplay to the game. So yeah, favorite new old game this year, definitely Final Fantasy 14. I can't put it down. I can't. My chat won't let me either. So I doubt but it's going to be one of those things that's going to be going on for a long time, and I will happily throw that one into the favorite new old game category for real.
Love it. Adam?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I definitely agree. Final Fantasy 14. That's not what I'm choosing though. I was really torn on this. There's
Interesting.
a couple games that I played that didn't release this year. Well, I want to give other games, a bit of a spotlight
That's
here.
fair.
So,
That's fair.
so there were a couple games here that I really wanted to mention. Although I think for me, so it's a game that didn't release this year, but I played for the first time this year, and that is Control. I love Control. It's so good. I think it's coming to Game Pass soon. Is that
I think it's
not
already
That's
right?
there.
always the rumor.
Oh.
Is it actually coming to Game
It-
Pass? Was that
I think
confirmed?
I think it's there now, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I bought it and then it came to Game
Oh
Pass.
yeah,
and
yeah,
I was
yeah. You're right.
waiting on
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
so yeah, absolute great game. Oh, I enjoyed it so much. I didn't play the DLCs, but I think it would be cool to go and do that.
Hmm.
It was in Game of the Year discussions last year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
For good reason. Totally deserving of the nominations that it got. Good voice acting. The game, it was the first game that I played with ray tracing in it too. When I built my gaming computer, and it was beautiful. Really pretty game, and the story was gripping. It was very X-Files ish, which I loved. That really kind of pulled on my, I don't know, heartstrings, I guess. And yeah, like I said, really enjoyed the characters, really enjoyed the combat. The combat did reach a point where it sort of plateaued in the middle, and then there wasn't a whole lot of progression after that, which was a little bit of a bummer. But I think overall, just like really solid game. And it was just, I don't know, it was weird. Like I didn't pick it up when it came out last year because there was some weird critiques that it got that it kind of made it sound like something I wouldn't be interested in. And then I built my computer and it was on sale for like half off, and I tried it and I just fell in love. But I did want to do a quick shout out to Deliver Us the Moon and Yakuza Zero as other games that I played for
Hell
the first
yeah.
time this year that are just absolute
Nice.
bangers. And both of those are on Game Pass as well, so go play those.
I didn't know you could shout out other ones. Near Automata. Automata.
I cheated.
Automata.
I don't think we were supposed to, but I Deliver Us the Moon. It's a short. You can beat that game in like 1 or 2 sittings, and then Yakuza. Yeah, Luke got me into that, and yeah, that was just, it was crazy. It's over the top, but it's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Very good. Well, for me, so my best new old ongoing game was Destiny 2. So they released a new expansion this fall called Beyond Light, and basically kind of flipped the script on a lot of things story wise that they haven't really touched before, and really kind of cleaned the game up because Destiny 2 has been going since 2017, and it's just become a little overrun with content to the point where I was at the point that I couldn't really enjoy the game anymore because I had like hundreds of quests in my quest log that were just clogging things up. I didn't really know what was worth my time anymore in that game, and I know a lot of players that are very very hardcore really disliked it for that reason. But for me, it was kind of like a blank page, a fresh start, and a way to get back into a game that I really love. And there's also a lot of callbacks to Destiny 1 that they kind of made, or one of the main characters from that game that you really never learned very much about. You kind of finally get to learn what her story is and what she's all about. And she's kind of been a meme in the Destiny community just because her famous line is, "I don't have time to explain why I don't have time to explain." And so basically, it's basically a metaphor for the entire game, which was kind of a mess at launch, and so it kind of became a meme among the community. And so for them to finally bring her as a character back around and flesh her out and kind of let everyone see who she really was awesome. And yeah, I mean, just Destiny. I've been playing Destiny off and on since the first game released, since the beta for that first game actually, and just a game that I really enjoy, and I'm happy to say that I'm finally back into a place with it where I feel like I can access it and not feel overwhelmed. And one last thing, they're adding, not sure exactly when, but soon, the first raid ever from Destiny 1 is coming back in Destiny 2.
Cool.
And that's the raid that I spent the most time with and know like the back of my hand. And so that's going to be like, a trip down memory lane to get back in there with some buddies and run that again. And, be able to take advantage of all the new features in Destiny 2 and see how that, changes things in that raid. So very excited for that. So yeah, Destiny 2 was my game this year.
Nice. Yeah, I kind of picked it up again whenever they went free to play Destiny 2.
Mhm.
And they gave like the first, not only the main game, but then 2 expansions.
Two
along with
expansions,
it.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I kind of fell into that. There's a lot of quests to do, and I found
Yes.
myself doing all the old stuff again, and maybe PvP every once in a while and things like that. But it is a solid freaking game, isn't it? It is
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's Bungie at its best when it comes to the shooting.
Yeah, and since you've mentioned it before, like I've always wanted to sit down and play more with you because I feel like you could guide me along a little bit better. And
Mhm.
Destiny is one of those games that I definitely would put a lot of time into if I had a buddy. So keep that in mind.
Crossplay is coming in January, I think. So we'll be able to do that soon.
Super.
For me, my go-to game was easily Call of Duty Warzone, and I don't know when Warzone technically. It was last year, wasn't it, that it came out?
I think it
so.
was this year.
It could have been this
actually.
year. It
Let me
could.
see.
It's one
I
of
mean,
those.
this was the
Google it, you
longest
talk.
year ever. So.
Yeah, like there's, I've fallen into that trap of like, that was, I'm like everyone. That is like, that was this year. Like, are you kidding me?
March 10th, 2020.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
dang it. Shows how much research I did for this one. Like the one piece of criteria I don't even meet.
I mean, you could technically say that the game it's attached to came out last year. So
Yeah, like
Modern Warfare.
I
So
did
there you
get, I got Warzone, I got Modern Warfare when I upgraded to my PS4 Pro, and that's where Warzone came from. So I remember I was messing around in multiplayer, so that's probably why that's where my mind was at. But well, whatever. I'm saying Warzone, and because it's kind of like an ongoing game, right? And
Mhm.
I just had so much fun with that game. Like, the battle royale genre was one of those things that, like, when it like, I think PUBG, and I know that there's been mods in different games over the years that have introduced variations of the battle royale genre, but I just remember like thinking when I was younger, having like that kind of similar idea for a game, and when they started coming out, I was like, man, this genre is so much fun. But like every single one that came out like wasn't clicking with me. PUBG, self-explanatory. The game was kind of a buggy mess, and at least on consoles it was, and it just wasn't hitting the mark. Fortnite, fun time, still same thing. It wasn't hitting the mark for me. Apex came along and, did a lot for me, but once Call of Duty Warzone came on, it was like it paired like one of my favorite like first person shooters, right? A series that I've been playing for decades at this point, over a decade. It it fits so good, and I've just had so much fun like running that game solo. I mean, Garrett, you and I played a lot this year. I had so much fun with their zombie mode at Halloween. Like, I was like, I think I was in a quarantine period because I had to get COVID tested, and that was my go-to game. I was playing round after round after round. Like, it was so much fun. So yeah, I'm glad to see that game getting that update with a new map. I'm hoping to continue playing that into the new year, and the goal for that game now is to get better at mouse and keyboard so that I can transition over to PC. But that was like the cherry on top to my Warzone experience this year, is then booting it up on my PC for the first time and hitting huge high frame rates, and it was like silky smooth. Man, it totally, I now understand why people say FPSs belong on PC with mouse and keyboard, because it's snappier, it's quicker. It's going to take a little bit to practice, but I'm excited to continue on with that. So Right on.
Nice.
Let's move on to, I guess we're moving on to the big topic here, which is our top 5 games of the year. So I think what makes the most sense with this is to sorry, Nishan says, but what's that KD ratio, dog? You don't want to know. You don't want to ask that, Nishan. So what I think we should do is maybe we could just kind of do a round table like we're doing. I will say that, like, if a game comes up that is maybe like your number 4, right, when we're on number 5, you can mention, give some quirks and stuff like that. But we all obviously want to save the game of the year for the big reveal for each of us. So I guess we'll kick it back over to you, Steven. Let's hear your number 5.
So no, my number 5 goes to Watch Dogs Legion, which was
Wow.
an incredible game. And really, I can probably say that it's only number 5 because I haven't completed story on it yet. And it's one of those perfectly crafted open world games. I point to Horizon Zero Dawn a lot for this type of game where it's an open world game. You can do whatever you want to. The world is pretty. It's fun to explore. There's lots of cool things to do, but the plot of the game keeps you moving through it. Right, complete opposite of Ghost of Tsushima in that point. And that's why I made my list. But the story is fantastic, and it really kind of grabs a hold of a modern day issue that we deal with in human trafficking and such. So like it's very the plot's very heavy into that point, and confronting that where in this kind of corporately controlled city now, and it just it hooks you into it. And then gameplay is absolutely fantastic. Being able to hack things like drones and stuff and use them to your advantage. There was one mission I completed without stepping foot into the compound because I could just go from camera to camera, mess around with people, run them over with hacked cars, and use my drones to go in and interact with whatever I needed to within that compound. I never had have my person actually step foot into it. And that's a lot of fun playing that way in that game. And then the other thing too is recruiting literally anybody that you want to off the street, like anybody. And as you gain renown and things, you can even get into recruiting people from enemy factions that you're dealing with, going up against. So it's got really great gameplay style to it. I made it a mission in my playthrough to make sure that every single person that I recruited wears a bowler derby, because there's enough people walking around England that can wear a bowler derby. So right now I have a team of about 3 that came with their derbies, and another 3 that I had to buy them derbies as they walked around in their street clothes to wear them. Solid game. 5 does not give it justice to what it actually is, I think, if we're going to do this 1 through 5 thing.
Right.
But it is a game that if you haven't played yet and you love that kind of open world, great gameplay, riveting plot, Watch Dogs Legion has it all. It's a banger. It's a ton of fun. It's a ton of fun, and was easily found on my top 5 list for this year.
That's awesome. That game was I was always interested in it ever since it was announced, because I'm one of the rare few that actually enjoyed the first Watch Dogs. Maybe because I just went into it really not knowing anything about it, forgetting about all of its controversy, and I was like, it was a great time. 2, also enjoyed it, didn't complete it. But yeah, the conversation for Legion kind of died down after it released. And I don't know if that's because we were just probably on a couple weeks out from next gen, and that kind of took over the discussion. But yeah, hearing your thoughts on it, definitely. Like I was kind of on the fence of getting it, but I think I'm totally gonna pull the trigger on it now. So yeah, right on. All right, Adam, I guess we'll work that counterclockwise rotation.
Sure. Yeah. So I think for me, number 5 is going to be the game that maybe defined 2020 for a lot of people, which is Animal Crossing: New Horizons. What a just absolute charming game! It was every bit as good as I imagined it was going to be. I was very, very hyped for that game for pretty much since they announced, even before they announced it, to be honest, because I mean, we'd all been, waiting for the next Animal Crossing game since oh geez. When was the last one before that? New Leaf on 3DS. And then we got that
Yeah.
weird board game and
On Wii
yeah,
U.
so
Yeah.
so we had to suffer through the whole Wii U life cycle for it to finally come through on Switch years after the console launched, and totally worth it. Getting out of debt from Tom Nook is a beautiful thing. Expanding your house, bringing new villagers into your island, and then getting the ability to customize your island just about any way you see fit is just so good. Like once you get to a certain point in the game and you can do like the terraforming stuff
Mhm.
is amazing. Just being able to do that, you move, houses, then you can make bridges and inclines, and you have the different, layered tiers to your island. And of course, the events and the support they keep bringing the game is amazing. This Toy Day stuff has been so much fun. I've been having a good time just grinding out, trying to pop balloons to get the recipes for things, and then using that to decorate the island and my house with. Um, yeah, there's just not enough good things to say about that game, and it's brought a lot of joy to people this year. Everyone kind of stuck at home, and it was a good means of while Nintendo doesn't have the best multiplayer system in the world, it was a good means to sort of interact with other people and share your island with others and compare. And some people were using it for really creative stuff. There were Ninja Warrior series that people did in that. Survivor, um, Big Brother, like all these different like TV adaptations that people used Animal Crossing for.
How
Gary
about
Whitta had that
Yeah.
extremely popular series, Animal Talking. Like
Mhm.
it was amazing what people were able to do with this game because of how much you can customize and sort of make it your own. So that was my number 5.
And I will piggyback on this because Animal Crossing was actually my number 2 for this year. Am I supposed to give the number whenever I chime in
Yeah,
and
yeah.
around? Yeah.
Go for it.
If you want, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, he was. Animal Crossing was my number 2 this year, and it was a solid. It was such a solid game, and I had never played Animal Crossing leading up to this one.
Mhm.
So this is my first Animal Crossing game,
Yeah,
first
newbie.
experience that I've had, completely new to it, right? I think my latest hour count is 1,100 hours.
Oh, God, Steven.
It's crazy.
Right now, to be fair, it was some of that was just it being on in the background while I was working, whenever I was still working
Yeah.
at home, and just having the hourly music change just to keep my day fresh with that hourly
Great music.
change. Or I have a little break between whatever I'm doing, and I can go pop a balloon real quick. You know what I mean? So like it had that thing to it, but then all the other stuff that you can do within the game itself, just to keep yourself busy during that time frame of our lives, along with the connectivity with other people through it. It really was just a great game to have this year, and I'm glad it was here. And that's why it's so high on my list. Is it is just a perfect example of gaming at its finest for one of the worst times in our lives, to kind of give us this little bit of joy, in living a life without actually having the ability to go out your door and live a real life. It was good.
It was exactly the game we needed for this year specifically.
Definitely.
Totally.
Yeah, it was my number 2 as well. So, yeah, I mean, everything you guys said is hitting it right on the nose. For me, Animal Crossing is a series that I've always been super into. I remember it must have been like 2000, 2001, seeing screenshots of it in Nintendo Power and hearing all about this game that had been out in Japan, and it was coming to the GameCube one day and was going to be this new kind of game, and they hooked me with these previews they did in Nintendo Power. And then first game came out a couple days before my birthday. It was just like the perfect storm for me to get really hooked on Animal Crossing. And I mean, I was in like middle school at the time, and I would get up at like 5 a.m. to play Animal Crossing before I went in for football practice and stuff. Like I was.
You got to make them bells, man. You got to
make man. So
I
mean, yes, exactly. This game was something that I had been looking forward to for a long time. It was everything I wanted out of a new game, which was to progress the series to a point that allowed for more customizability, more just making things your own and really, kind of giving you some of those options that other sim type games have, like The Sims, like, Stardew Valley and stuff like that, kind of expanding the emphasis on making it your own rather than living in someone else's little world. And so, yeah, just a stellar game, something that definitely got me through some of the harder times this year. I had a new baby this year, so when things hit, we were at home. When my wife was pregnant, she's asthmatic. Like we just couldn't risk very much, and so we were at home a lot of the time during the early days of COVID, and so it was kind of my escape there for a little while, and that was definitely nice to have. And I know a lot of people have a similar relationship with it. So yeah, my number two, and what a game.
Yeah, it was my number 5 as well. I yeah,
A
I'm
unanimous choice for the top 5. Way
yeah,
to go.
a couple
Yep.
twos and a
Nice.
couple
Very good.
fives. So obviously we all loved it here. I I'm with you, Steven. This was my first Animal Crossing experience. I wasn't sure how I was gonna receive an Animal Crossing game because the only time I had ever played Animal Crossing was at a friend's house on the GameCube back in the day. And I remember being like, wow, this is Sims but with animals. And that was like my only real impression of it. And, getting hands on with it and having my own experience with it was fantastic. And I mean, I want to just repeat pretty much everything you guys said with this game releasing when it did, right? Like I will forever like associate this whole pandemic with like that time that I spent, all the hours building the island. And it was a lot of fun doing it with Megan, because obviously we had to share that island, and she was a big Stardew fan, and she still says Stardew is up here and Animal Crossing is down here for her. But it was fun to like for her too, to like, as someone who appreciates that kind of genre of games, and then me who, that isn't necessarily my type of game, finding a love for it, and then being able to just, talk about our island together, like barreled the cub, or coach the well, it's been too long. What is coach again? I think he's a moose. Or no, a bull, maybe. Sorry, coach, but it was a lot of fun, and it was great to customize the island and just kind of play that game with her. It sucked because the multiplayer function of it just didn't operate the way I wanted it to. It still worked and it was still good, but we had a better time just playing the games individually, and then just like talking about our experiences, like with the villagers and what we did to the island, or whatever. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it was cool to play a game cooperatively like that, which I've never really done with a game before. So yeah, coach is a bull, says Rat Attack. Okay, and shout out to Barrel, best part of the game. Right on. All right, well, I guess we'll go back to you, Garrett, because you had your number 5 that you wanted to give out.
Yeah, so my number 5 is a recent one. It's Spider-Man Miles Morales. So, yeah, I mean, Spider-Man 2018 was or 2018, 2017, whatever year
2018.
that came out.
2018.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That was my game of the year that year. And so, for a kind of a derivative of that game to not at least make my top 5 felt a little criminal to me. So, I enjoyed everything about the game. I thought it was a kind of a nice kind of dialed down version of what 2018 was, more focused, less filler and more straight to the point. And one of those games that I appreciate, where you don't have to spend 40-50 hours to get what you need to out of it. It was 10-12 hours and you're out. And so yeah, just a solid game. If you guys want to hear us talk about that one more, obviously we did a review episode for that game. So, you can go back there and hear our full thoughts on the game. But yeah, I just thought that, like I said, not putting it in at least my top 5 when the original was, one of my favorite games ever, was a mistake I could not make tonight. So, Spider-Man Miles Morales took the spot for me.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, we just started playing it. We got a code for it from one of our GameStop buddies. He's like, "Hey, I got a
Nice.
code," and I'm like, "Yeah, you bring that right on
Yeah,
over here.
send
We'll
it
take
over.
it."
That's
So we
awesome.
started playing it. Mostly my son is playing it. He loves the Spider-Man game. So
Mhm.
you know, and I still have it here. Palooza.
Yeah. That's my copy of the game, everybody, and I'm never gonna see it again. That's fine. I got the version that includes the remastered version of that game for PS5 with
Mhm.
Miles Morales. So
Nice.
so yeah, I guess that's your copy now, apparently.
So yeah, so my son's been playing it. I've been watching him play it, and I'll jump in and help him out with anything that's really too difficult. Which now he's Spider-Man Pro. He's getting so good at the game, and I've enjoyed watching him and catching the story bits that I'm getting while I'm watching. I can't wait to get my
Mhm.
hands on it. So, thanks for that insight to motivate me
Yeah.
more to play it myself.
So let me just say something real quick because I know I keep and you're gonna hear this a lot where I say I'm not a stealth fan, but we already talked about Ghost of Tsushima. I really like the stealth. Uh, Spider-Man Miles Morales here. I really enjoyed the stealth. I did a lot of stealthing around, getting stealth kills. The what is it? The perch kills, the wall kills.
Mhm.
Or I guess not kills really, but the takedowns and the ceiling takedowns. Like that was just awesome. Like picking people off one by one, watching them freak out. Like, whoa, Spider-Man's here. Like because they might catch like a glimpse of me or whatever. Maybe see one of their buddies down on the ground or something, and they start freaking out. They get on alert for a little bit, and then they just kind of go about their business, and then I start picking them off again. So yeah, that was when I did enjoy the stealth aspect on. So
Awesome. All right. Well, let's move on to number 4. I guess it's back to you, Steven.
Give us a sign, Nishan.
how
Nishan,
dare you? How
give us
dare
a-
you take this
give us-
from me?
give us a sign. Give us a sign. Phasmophobia. Easy choice to go onto the top 5 list. I knew that me and you were gonna be like right there with it because we have had so much freaking fun playing this game, right?
Super
Ghost Bros. The Ghost Bros, yep. And we kind of had the thought, oh, maybe it's just gonna die down because of Halloween or stuff, but we've gone back to it recently,
Yep.
and they added in a new level, and they're planning on adding in another level soon. So it's like along with ghost types, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna keep up with this. Like this game is made by one person. We were thinking
Mm.
about making an indie category, right? This would have gone into the indie category easy, but because these indie games are keeping up with AAA titles, I mean, how many did it beat out for me? 1, 2, 3, 4. At least 4 AAA titles it beat out
Wow.
on my list.
Yeah, that's impressive, right?
It says a lot.
Made by one
Yeah.
person. Phasmophobia is a ton of fun. I'm gonna turn a phrase here that Adam had. I'm not a horror game player at the very least. I just can't. I never got into them. Not even as far into the Resident Evil games. I've never played. But I think it was you, Palooza, were like, dude, you got to try this out. It's so good. And I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's go. And I'm hooked now. I'm absolutely hooked. I love this game. I love the mechanics to it, the play style with it, the ghost. They give me shivers. It's just an all around good time. And if you can get a full party of ghost bros or ghost gals, whatever you want to do, Ghostbusters, general term, get them together and play it because it's a ton of fun. It's not asymmetric. So don't expect that Ghost versus Ghost Hunters sort of experience, and I don't think it needs it. But all around, just your mechanics and gameplay style to this, it's just a solid game, well put together, and a ton of fun to play.
Yeah, this was my number 3 actually. So again, I say, how dare you take this? Because oh my gosh, yeah, I have been championing this game for the longest time. Yeah, I went on this campaign. I'm like, I need people to play this with because it is a game that's heavily focused on you playing with other people, the team, especially for the larger maps, to go and solve. Because it's essentially, yeah, it's a ghost game. It's spooky, whatever. I'm not a horror game person by any means, but this is like, yeah, it's horror, but it's a puzzle game, and it's a puzzle game you can do with friends. And yes, you can play by yourself, but I will say the less people there are, the spookier it is. When you have friends to play with, it's not quite as spooky, but it's still a lot of fun, and it is still spooky, just not as spooky. Um, I remember playing through the tutorial, and I couldn't even finish it. I'm like, nope. I noped out of it. I was looking for the ghost. I saw this ball come rolling down the steps. I'm like, I'm out. It actually took a couple tries for me to like be able to finish the tutorial because I was like just that much of a wuss. But yeah, it's so much fun. They are continuing to add more content, albeit it's a little on the a bit of a slower pace because it is just one person.
Mhm.
But yeah, getting people to play this game with me just made me so happy because I looked at it. It's basically Ghost Adventures, the game, right?
Mhm.
Doing Zach Bagans and his crew, and we're going in with our video cameras and our books and our spirit boxes for recording ghost voices um, just an absolute blast. I still love it. I will say it feels very easy now, which is
Mhm.
kind of a bummer. I know they are adding in higher difficulties and maybe more ghosts that'll make things a little bit more challenging. But yeah, it's just so much fun. And there's a little part of me that wanted to make it my game of the year, but I just, I wasn't quite there. I wasn't quite ready for that. So
Yeah, I honestly I want to jump into some more with you guys because that little snippet that I got on I'm sure you guys were like he he's a complete idiot and like
no,
totally
that's like the best part because
It
watching
is.
you come in and kind of fumble, you're getting killed by the ghost.
yeah,
Like
I got killed
that's
every
exactly
round I
like what
think.
makes that's exactly what makes this game so
Yeah,
great. So it was actually more fun having you in there as being
yeah,
kind of like this green like new member of the team.
yeah. It was so fun
Definitely.
because it was like because obviously the game has that certain level of jank and it like it sometimes things would happen. I'm like, is that the game kind of like glitching out or did I see what I saw? And yeah, it can provide a lot of laughs too along the way. So yeah. All right. So I guess who would it be now? You, Adam, with your number 4 or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
yeah?
So yeah, my number 4 was Ghost of Tsushima. We talked about this a little bit already. I enjoyed that game a lot. The story was really great. Um, it was kind of neat. Yeah, I know, Stephen, what you were saying about how it kind of forces you into that, but the way that it takes that, that sort of transition into becoming the ghost, and your uncle is ashamed of you. It sets you along a really great narrative path that maybe wouldn't have been as good if it had to branch off into two separate, like, oh, you're a samurai or oh, you're ghost. The way it kind of incorporated all of that into a single story um, was very very interesting to me. I really enjoyed that. The combat was good. There was plenty of skills and abilities to collect along the way. Different fighting styles that you could have, and the exploration and the world was absolutely gorgeous. One of the most beautiful games of the year, if not the most beautiful game of the year. I think it won an award for I think maybe art direction.
Yeah, I
I think it
think
was at
so.
the Game
I think so.
Awards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they did incredible things with the world. There was plenty to see and do. Sometimes maybe a little too much to see and do. Um, but yeah, it was just really, really a great game. It maybe could have gone higher on my list, but yeah, I have it in at my number 4.
Nice.
I guess I'll just chime in real quick. It was my number 2. And honestly, it was a game that it surprised me on how much I like that game. To be number 2, like that's obviously is making a statement. When that game was announced, like I have no attachment to Sucker Punch as a studio, never played Infamous. I've wanted to, but it just haven't had the opportunity yet. And when it comes to samurai and especially like samurai movies, again, something that isn't kind of like, not that I don't like them, but it's just not something I seek out to watch or whatever. And just like how they they nailed that kind of that's what kind of makes a samurai movie, the tone, right? The filmography of it all, those different shots that they would do in those story beats in that game just like totally set the tone for the scene, and it made the game a lot more impactful when crazy moments happened. You know, going to your point, Steven, that you made at the top of the show, with the difference between Ghost versus Samurai, and you know, it did feel weird in a lot of ways, because it's like it was saying like, oh, you can kind of play the game however you want, but it also like forced it into this story. So it's like, well, what happens if I want to play as a samurai? Like, I have to kind of do these things to progress the game, and it kind of goes against what I'm trying to do. And so I think there could have been a way that they balanced that in a way to kind of tailor it to each person's experience a little bit, like how they wanted to experience the game. If they wanted to focus on stealth, if they wanted to just go in there and, you know, and start off with a duel or whatever. So yeah, that game is just like, I enjoyed it so much. I will say that it was slow to start off with. It wasn't until that second act where I really started to find the ground and really found that I was, yeah, it was hard to like hold on to Jin at the beginning as a character, and his performance was, I don't know, like it was hard to find that attachment to him. But by the end of the game, it was completely different, because I had seen, you know, all the struggles he had gone through. And yeah, like it's an open world game. It's several hours. I will say that from like the second act to the final part of the game was probably my favorite. But again, you shouldn't have to play a game for 30 hours for it to get good. You know what I mean? So yeah, really liked it. Platinumed it. I would love to boot it up on the PS5, see how it looks and performs on there, just so I can relive it again. I would love for some DLC. I'm really interested to see if I'm assuming they're going to turn this into a franchise, and then my hope for Ghost of Tsushima is I'm done with Jin as a character. I don't think I need any more from him, but I think they can take that IP and still apply it, maybe a different age of Japan, right? The samurai have a long history in Japan, and they could totally tailor a different kind of story. I think that would be really cool. So I'm hoping that Sucker Punch does that.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. I wonder how things would have changed for us. I know, you know, we had, yeah, you said it was second on your.
Yeah, it was number 2.
Yeah, so I wonder if thing would have changed at all if any of us had played the DLC that did come out for it, that multiplayer DLC that came out, because a lot of people absolutely adore that DLC, the multiplayer. I haven't tried it myself, but I hear just the best things about it.
I did
yeah.
play like the tutorial
Okay.
and like a couple like matches or whatever, but nothing more to like actually give impressions on it.
Yeah, I know there is, I guess, a pretty robust either gear or leveling system or something like that. And then, of course, once you get to a certain point, you can do raids, which people were just like totally infatuated
Yeah.
with. And it's an aspect of the game that I do want to return to and try again, because it was free. So why not, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just, you know, the things that I've heard have been absolutely stellar. And yeah, so I wonder if you know, any of our opinions would have changed if it would have went higher on any of our lists had we given it like its full due.
Sure. Yeah. Good point.
But yeah, and then also one other thing to kind of mention what you were saying about like from Act 2 on, it is where things really kind of get interesting with the story. The thing that makes that kind of a bummer is the fact that Act 1 is easily the largest part of the game, right? You're in the largest part of the island. There's just so much things to do that it's easy for, like you say, Steven, you get Skyrimmed, right? You get stuck going to all the different places. You're like, ooh, shiny, like what's over there? And you end up, yeah, right, exactly.
One point on the fox dens, someone who got the platinum had to do every goddamn fox den. Like, first time it was really cute, But like the 100th time, I wanted to kill those goddamn foxes.
You pet it on the head
Yeah.
after you get done. It's
I
like,
didn't
"Oh,
even
the
do them
fox!"
all, and I got kind of sick of doing them.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can only imagine like going for the platinum. So yeah, doing all those things and kind of putting the story sort of second to the open world experience. I wish they would have maybe tweaked that a little bit to get people involved more with the story early on.
Mhm. All right.
Definitely a solid game.
Yeah. Garrett, you haven't had a chance to talk here, so let's bring it back to you.
I guess I'll mention that, Ghost of Tsushima, obviously a game I did not put enough time into to really comment on. I played a couple hours, did the first few story missions, and really it came out right after my son was born, and it was a bad call on my part to even attempt to play it at that time. So it's in my backlog, and hopefully, in the first few months of the year, I'll be able to get into that. So. But my number 4 game was Hades. So I'm going to cheat a little
Nice.
bit on this one in my next game. These are games I have not completed, but I think they both have a very good reason for that. And Hades, the reason for that is just because that game is infinitely replayable as is. And
Good.
it's just a ton of fun, man. It's a roguelike game where you're just able to run the same, procedurally generated dungeon areas and fight the same bosses over and over again. But as you go through, you're earning power-ups, you're earning new abilities, and each time you go through, you're able to kind of tweak what build you have based on what vendors pop up for you on your run and that kind of thing. And so first kind of this genre of game that I've ever really gotten into, and it's a game that I still love to just if I know I've got 15-20 minutes and I could get a quick game of Hades in, that'd be fun. Just pop it on and do a run. And it's a game that I'm not really itching to beat, honestly. It's not something that, I've heard the story is really good and I've liked what I've seen so far from it, but it's not a game that I'm playing for the story necessarily. And it's one that's nice to have just to pull out and play when you have a few minutes. And so for that reason, and for the fact that it was I would consider this an indie game by all accounts, and I think that it definitely beat out some other heavy hitters this year and made it onto a lot of people's lists, and it definitely spoke to me as well. So Hades was my number 4.
Yeah, amazing game. It was in Game of the Year discussion for the Game Awards, and totally deserving. I don't have it on my list here, but yeah, we kind of talked about how we were tossing around the idea of having an indie category, and it's too easy to put a game that deserves to be in a top 5 in an indie category just because it's an indie. And I love that we've all we have some indie games that have made our top 5s and just being totally deserving for being great content. So yeah, awesome. You love to see it.
Yeah, and Hades, IGN actually announced today, was their game of the year. So
wow.
Nice.
beating out lots of AAA games for that award. So goes to show, like, clearly it made an impact on the entire industry. So
Yeah.
all right, my number 4 was Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I know we have some Final Fantasy crew in the chat. Obviously, Adam, Steven, you guys are fans of Final Fantasy. I've talked about it on the show multiple times before. Final Fantasy is a franchise that's kind of been my blind spot in gaming. I watched a lot of my sister play 10-2. She really liked 10. And I played a handful of the games here and there, but typically I'm not a fan of turn-based combat, and so that's why I've always been turned off from Final Fantasy. And when 15 came out with that real-time action combat, I was like, perfect, this is an opportunity for me. And I didn't quite beat Final Fantasy 15, but I think I played about 75% of like the main storyline, and I liked it. Again, I don't know a lot about Final Fantasy, and I couldn't critique it on its story, but I liked it. And so when 7 Remake, I was like, okay, this looks... It's less high fantasy, obviously, and it's more dystopian future, which I think aligns more with kind of my taste in movies and video games. And so it just seemed like a good fit, and the fact that they had changed it to that combat system replicating kind of what 15 was doing. I was like really like that. And yeah, like I went into the year kind of like wanting to give it a good shot. And if it didn't click, I wasn't going to force myself into it. But I ended up playing the whole game and like immediately just was like, let's go. Like, let's continue. I want to see the story, right? And especially learning, slight spoiler. I'm not going to reveal anything here. I'm sure most people have played it by now, but hearing how the game had changed from the original and how they had added some new narrative plot points in there is fascinating, because I think that's cool for me as a new player, sure, but I think that's just cool that they like gave a new experience to people who knew their original. So yeah, I really enjoyed that game, and yeah, like I ended up giving it on a review that we did, and it's kind of funny. We talked a lot about Final Fantasy VII this year because we recorded a whole podcast, like 2 hours worth, me, Steven, and Adam, that got totally erased, and then we had to do it again. So I've talked about Final Fantasy VII like a lot this year, and it was enjoyable talking about with you guys, and like being able to talk about to two people who are experienced with the franchise, and give my take on it for someone who doesn't know much about Final Fantasy VII. I enjoyed that aspect outside of the game. So yeah, really incredible game. Can't wait for part 2 or whatever the continuation is, whenever we'll see it. But I'm gonna be getting that, and I'm gonna be hyped when the day finally comes for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's move on to number 3, Steven.
Number 3, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. What a beautiful freaking game. What a beautiful game this year.
Was it not on your list last year?
Wait, did it come out this year? I thought it came out this year.
No, it was late last year. It got snubbed at the Game Awards last year because
that's right, because it fell in the window.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of cheated then.
You know what? That's all right.
I think that's still fine.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you had it on your list last year or not.
I think I added it because they had it in the Game Awards this year. They were talking about it, right?
It's a fantastic game, so let's hear about it.
It's glorious. It is. So again, to coin that phrase that Adam uses all the time, I'm not a Souls player, right? I don't play Souls games. But this game introduced me to it through the universe of Star Wars. Mm-hmm. Introduced a brand new character within that universe as well. Played by one of my all-time favorite actors, who I think you all just discovered that he played the Joker in the TV series Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
And
I know him from Shameless, and he's so good.
Yeah, he was also in Shameless. He's phenomenal actor, great choice for the character, and besides some, and I know you guys had some minor technical issues whenever you were playing it, but by the time I got my hands on it, and this is probably another reason why it made it onto my list for this year, is because I didn't get into it right away like you guys did. No technical issues, very well put together for me after the patch. The story is absolutely riveting. It fits so well into the universe and the story that they've already had previously told. Kind of this whole post-Order 66 world, Force users are killed immediately on sight type of deal. That's not something that the Empire wants in their empire. So you're getting this sense of what it was like to be a Force user within this post-Order 66. The Souls gameplay style to it was fantastic. Plus, it added in all the puzzle solving that you could do, and the Force power management. Kind of attaching it to almost like a stamina bar type of situation, where like you're not going in like Force Unleashed, like blow up entire things, pull down Star Destroyers out of the sky. Really ridiculous Force use. It's kind of more in tune with your New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, kind of that reserved Force use, maybe move an object every once in a while, do some Force pushing, things along those lines. The saber throws, you're not sitting there and just spamming Force. You have to lightsaber fight, plus then do a little bit of Force action in there if needed. very, very well put together game all around, and definitely deserving. Definitely worth doing the cheat code to add this onto my top 5 this year, because it definitely was one of the best games that I played this year, hands down. So I cheated.
For sure.
Sorry.
No,
Happens.
like it's unfortunate that that it couldn't pull that award this year at the Game Awards, because I thought that clearly they had made enough of a, there was that whole ordeal last year, and then for it to like made it clear that like those people who voted in, right, the media outlets and everything like that, wanted to make that statement that, hey, we still we're not forgetting that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was a fantastic game and it got snubbed last year, and it sucks that it couldn't get that, but it still deserves that recognition, because year later, like I still think back to it frequently, and it was just such a fantastic like story to Star Wars, and I'm just so excited for Star Wars Jedi whatever the sequel will be for that game, because I would love to just jump back into it. You know what I mean?
And figure with Jedi Fallen Order, when did Mandalorian start?
It started last I guess last October, November.
Yeah.
So
It was
just
last year, November, I want to say.
just before it came out. So like the whole
Yeah.
Star Wars was getting it was basically getting kicked off for our new generation, right? For this new start to things, because we had Mandalorian start, we just had finished up with um, um, Rise of Skywalker, I think around that time as well. And now it's fitting within this brand new tale that's being told in parts of places that we had not previously seen a whole lot of, almost fitting in with that Clone Wars cartoon sort of thing, giving a look into different parts of the universe that we haven't necessarily seen before, because the galaxy is a big place, right? And we always tend to find ourselves where the Skywalkers are in the movies.
Yeah.
So now we're, with this game, with Mandalorian, with Clone Wars, like we get to see all these different places within that galaxy, and it just fleshes out the entire series. And it's such a puzzle piece that fits so well into the Star Wars tale, and I'm glad it was there. And yeah, like you, I'm ready for the next one.
Yeah,
absolutely ready for the next one.
Yeah, same here.
All right, Adam. I guess we're on number 3. Yeah.
I think I'm number 2.
Oh right, because Phasmophobia.
Yeah.
So then would it go to me, because I haven't done my
number? Sure. Yeah, Garrett. Let's get it to you.
Okay. So I kind of admitted to a little bit of cheating as well. This is a game that I also did not complete, and could be argued as to whether this game is a wholly new game this year, but Persona 5 Royal was my number 3 game this year. Put like 35-40 hours into the game, and that's a drop in the bucket in this game. And so with the crazy year I've had with having the baby and all that, and just finding time to complete games has been a little tough. And so I feel like I played a heck of a lot of this game, and I get the gist of what's going on. And if things continue as they are, story wise and gameplay wise, that it could have easily probably challenged for my favorite game of the year. Definitely up there is probably my favorite JRPG that I've ever played. And like I said, I'm not even halfway through the game. So I felt just for those reasons alone, it deserved a spot on the list, even though I had not seen the story through.
Honestly,
what a
dude,
game.
no one's going to fault you for not beating that game, because it's like hundreds of hours.
Ridiculous.
So long,
I've still got like at least 100 hours to go, I think.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, something like that.
Just I kind of appreciate it for that, because it is a game that I feel like I get into the mood for, and then that's all I want to do for like a week or two. And so I put 15-20 hours in a couple weeks, and then I'm good for a little while, and then I can pick it back up. And the loading screens in that game say take your time, and that's kind of what I'm doing with it. And so
nice.
Just a game that I've really enjoyed, something that like I said, I like JRPGs. I don't get into a ton of them. Final Fantasy's always kind of been a weak spot for me as well. I kind of have gravitated more towards like the Pokemons and the Golden Sun, and kind of more of the handheld JRPGs that have come out. And obviously Pokemon is a little bit of its own thing. But yeah, just this game kind of took me by surprise. I had tried out the standard Persona 5 and put like 5 or 6 hours into that several years ago, and I enjoyed it, but just didn't click as well for me then. And so when the total package was out and released this year, and saw the reviews it was getting, even from people who had played the original version, and said, this is even more incredible than the original. So I figured I'd give it the shot. And another one that I picked up right as kind of COVID hit, and was looking for stuff to play, and so it was a big part of my year, and for that reason made the list.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's such a good game. I played through the original Persona 5. I didn't play through Royal at all, but I know Royal incorporated a lot of quality of life changes that were really beneficial from the original game. But yeah, I played through the original one. It took me, I want to say, like 115 to 120 hours to get through the whole thing. Royal is just going to add more on top of that, because now there's new characters, there's new story being added to it, new dungeon, all sorts of new stuff coming into it. So yeah, it's even just going to add more time onto that. So as much as I want to play through it, I don't think I have the time for another 120 hour RPG, which is a shame, because it's again, just to put in perspective how good of a game Persona 5 is. My wife, who is not a gamer by any means, she plays like 0 games. She doesn't like watching me play games either. She loved when I played Persona 5. That's like her favorite game of all time. She just and she would tell me from time to time, she's like, you should play through Persona 5 again. I'm like, I don't have time for this. So yeah, I mean, that just tells you like how good of a game that is, that like even non-gamers can get attached to it. So
Absolutely.
so good. And the music and the art style, it's all amazing.
Yeah, music's awesome. That performance at the Game Awards was so good. The battle theme. Yeah,
so good.
All right, well, I guess it's my number 3 then. All right, so Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 plus 2. Yeah, that game was the game I needed for sure this year. It was, so a bit of context. I like Tony Hawk games were my childhood. Those were what defined me from like the ages of like very young to up until basically high schoolish, maybe a little less than that, but there were the games that I would always play constantly. I'd have friends over and we were playing Tony Hawk, whatever the iteration was for that year, back when it kind of had an annual to every couple year release. And I love those games. And we've had a drought of skateboarding games, and when that got announced this year, it was such a hype moment for me. It was probably the hypest game announcement I've had in quite a long time. So yeah, I as someone who was really into skateboarding and liked video games, like skateboarding video games have a special place in my heart, and they just like really executed this remake, like to give us 2 games combined into one. It wasn't even a full $60. I don't think. I think it was less than that, if I'm not mistaken. And the amount of content was there. They had all the maps completely redone. They had the introduction of the original roster of the games, as well as like the new school, all these new pro skaters, the online elements, obviously, because when Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 released back in the day on PlayStation 1, same with 2, it was local multiplayer only. So like I messed around in online and being able to play some different matches through that was fantastic. Like the soundtrack too, like the game just really respected the originals while also giving it a new content. And like I feel like that's so hard to nail with remakes. And we're in that era of getting remakes all the time, and you take too much stuff out of an original, you're going to upset that original fan base. but if you don't add enough new elements and make it up to snuff to what video games are today, then it's going to fall flat. And I just feel like they just killed it on both of those. Like, they checked off every box. So it was so much fun. I wanted to platinum, but it was way too challenging. I got my ass kicked early on in that game, being like, "Hey man, you haven't played. You may know the muscle memory is coming back to you, but it's been like a decade since you played these games, so it was challenging at first. But once I got my flow, like, I just cruised through those campaigns, and yeah, it's fun. I haven't played it in a while now, but yeah, it's you know, whenever I have a friend come over or something like that, like it's there, and I love to have that opportunity game, especially because that means a lot to me in my past with video games. So yeah, I think they did it, and I'm really excited to see if this remake fuels the Tony Hawk franchise for future releases, right? You know, I would love that. So fingers crossed on that one.
That's
For
definitely
sure,
the
yeah.
hope, right? These
Yeah.
remakes that they're so good and they get so much funding pushed behind them from people buying the game that it kind of revitalizes the franchise. Tony Hawk is one of those franchises that needs
Mhm.
that. Like, we need Tony Hawk in our lives, because I played the originals back in the day, and like, it wasn't childhood defining for me, but it was definitely one of those sit down, play with your friends, and have a really good damn time playing them. You
Yeah.
know, seeing what ridiculous tricks you could pull off and doing whatever tricks to keep your combo score rolling
Yeah.
as you move from one area to the other, and always trying to figure out fresh combos and things like that. Like, doing the point challenge stuff was what defined that game for me. I loved it, and it took best sports racing game at the Game Awards this year, and I was really
Yeah.
glad to see it beat out the sports balls and
Absolutely.
the F1s and
Yeah.
whatever, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
To see that kind of take that award with the success and the beauty of that remake, I'm with you. I'm ready to see some more Tony Hawk come out. Absolutely.
Yep. It was in contention for my list as well. And I probably could have squeezed something in or out to make room for it, but yeah, what a game. I mean, this is another one that we did a review episode for. Luke and I did one, and so yeah, if you're jonesing for more Tony Hawk impressions, that's the place to go find that. But yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I mean, it's a reinvention of what a game that we all, you know, kind of got into back in the day, and has been sorely needing that. And you know, we've got I can't remember who said it. Sashi Glory in the chat said mentioned Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. You know, and that goes to what you're saying, Steven. Like, Crash Bandicoot just had number 4 come out, and by all accounts, it's amazing. You know, fans of the series love it, newcomers love it, and so if we can get that same kind of love for a Tony Hawk game, I think a lot of people are going to be really happy.
Definitely. All right. I guess we're on to number 2, which, Steven, you gave to Animal Crossing, right? If
That's
memory
right,
serves correct. All right. So,
So did
Cross
I.
was number 2.
okay, and so I guess that's your number 2, Adam. What is it?
My number 2 is one that I know isn't going to be on anybody's list because I'm the only one that's played it, and that is Yakuza Like a Dragon. This is another game that could, like, just really could have been game of the year if not for what my game of the year was. So it takes all that charm of the Yakuza series, that's sort of over the top, the characters, the writing, the mini games, everything that you love about Yakuza, and they make it a JRPG. So that's like immediately right up my alley, right? So I'm playing through, and it just it went beyond expectations for me. You know, I can't get over, like, the writing and the characters and the play style of this game. And not only is it a JRPG, but there is there's job classes in it, right? Which is one of my favorite things about some of my favorite Final Fantasy games, is being able to change your job class to be able to have different skills and stats and things like that. And it just, and it does it in a way that's, they try and keep it, like, down to earth, right? So you're not just throwing fireballs around, right? You're taking a swig of alcohol, lighting your lighter, and you're breathing that into your lighter, and it's creating, like this fire breath, right? So it kind of takes like these grounded ideas and mix it with fantasy, and it's just so good. And the story is captivating, like Yakuza stories are. And I haven't finished it yet. I'm really close. Cyberpunk came out, and then we got, Final Fantasy 14 patch came out, and the Toy Day update for Animal Crossing came out. So there's all these things I want to do, all these like festive things I want to be doing. And I was streaming Demon Souls remake as well, and so there's just all these things happening, and I need to go back and finish that game because I am close to the end. I have put a substantial amount of time into the game, and I just kind of am at the point where I need to make that final push to get to the end. But it's absolutely incredible. Luke, I know you're super into Yakuza. I cannot wait for you to play this game. Yeah, it's just fantastic. It sort of takes the storytelling kind of reminds me of like Final Fantasy VII remake in a way. And all the Yakuza games are kind of like that, really, and the way they tell the story and the way they kind of the pacing of it feels really well done. And so yeah, that's number 2, so close to being that game of the year. If it had come out last year, it 1,000% would have been my game of the year last year.
Man, it almost brings a tear to my eye to hear that, Adam, because although I haven't played Yakuza Like a Dragon yet, like Yakuza is a franchise that I was late to, but I feel like now with this launch of 7, like so many people are jumping onto Yakuza for the first time, and I knew you would like Yakuza, and so when you said you weren't really feeling the combat system of the earlier games of kind of being a beat 'em up kind of style game, the second
that was the real issue for me.
Yeah, the second they put that turn-based combat, I was like, man, this is like, I think that's gonna speak to Adam. So I'm so happy to hear, since then that you have played it. Not only that, it's one of your favorite games of the year. So just hearing everything you've said about it, I had this kind of rule that I made for myself of like, I played 0.
Ditch it.
Yeah. Honestly, it's probably gonna happen. I'm going to, I wanted to play through 0 all the way through 6. Kiwami 2 that we got back in, was that this year or last year? I can't even remember. No, I guess that would be last year, 2019. I got that box collection of 3 through 5. And I mean, that's hours upon hours of content there. And I wanted to get through those before I jumped into Like a Dragon, but and I know that the stories aren't connected, but I just feel bad ditching my boy Kiryu and moving on to Ichiban, because it's, you know what I mean?
Dude,
like
I love Ichiban. Like I only played a little bit with Kiryu. I played through 0 and maybe about halfway through Kiwami. So I love Kiryu. I love Goro, Majima in 0, and sort of the part that he's played in Kiwami. So yeah, that stuff that's all happening. I do totally want to go back and play through those games, but I don't feel bad about kind of jumping line and playing Like a Dragon. Ichiban, I think going back into those other games, I'm gonna wish Ichiban was there.
Yeah. Well, man, all I'm saying is I'm gonna ditch that promise I made, and in the new year, January, February, I think I'm just gonna pull the trigger on it and go for it. And because those other Yakuza games will always be there waiting for me. And yeah, dude, that's awesome. I love that Yakuza is having this resurgence in the West, because it's been like around since the PlayStation 2 and on PS4 with those remakes, and now it's like, hey, we're making it more accessible. We're bringing games to Xbox, a platform we haven't been on. We're bringing it to Game Pass. We're porting all these games to PC. Like, it's getting Yakuza into the hands of people for the first time, and that is so awesome to hear. All right. I'll cap the Yakuza talk. All right, where are we at here? So I guess we're on to game of the year for
Did,
each of us.
did we hear Garrett's number 2?
My
Animal
number 2
Crossing, right?
was Animal Crossing.
Oh,
Mhm.
right,
Yeah.
right. Okay.
I know we had talked about throwing out just a couple honorable mentions. Did we want to do that before we hit
That's
our
a
number
good
ones?
good point, Garrett. So yeah, and also I will make a note right now. I'm assuming by I don't know. I don't know about Adam. Sometimes he throws, but I feel like we all know what Steven, like our game of the years. I feel like me and Garrett are probably picking
Mhm.
the same game, and I think you guys are picking the same game. Would you agree?
Mhm.
I think so.
Probably.
Okay,
Probably.
all right. So what I think we should do is what we'll do is we'll go over our honorable mentions, and then we I think let's we can maybe get Adam and Steven to go over their game of the year because it's probably the same, and then we can do Garrett and mine's because it's probably the same.
Fair.
So yeah, we wanted to do like an honorable mention section of like games that we played this year that came out that didn't quite make that top 5 list, but there were games that we had a lot of fun with, and we wanted to give them specific shout outs, and recommend them to the audience, honestly, as games that maybe you should check out on your own. So I guess we'll turn it back to you, Steven. Any games you wanted to give a quick shout out to?
Yeah, pretty easy. Godfall. Do not listen to the
Nice.
reviews on this game. Please don't, because it is gorgeous and very fun to play. I've had to shelve it because of everything else being played right
Right.
now. But it is mechanically so fun to play, as on top of having the gorgeous graphics to it. The plot's not there. Don't expect a plot going into this. It's purely a slash and loot. Like,
Hmm.
you're there for the mechanics of the game and you're there for the loot of the game, and it has plenty of both. Don't go in for a robust plot to it. There is a little bit of story, just to kind of, oh, you're going to this place because you need to do this particular thing. So kind of think Destiny without the heavy plot, and that's
Mm.
basically what you get from Godfall, minus guns as well, because
Right.
you're winging around huge weapons and doing special abilities with them and everything like that. Cool suits of armor, like
Mhm.
it's a perfect slash and looting game. It is absolutely perfect, and I'm glad it came out on this generation. I have it on PC, and I can't wait to get a beefier graphics card just to really, jack up the graphics on this, because it is, as it stands right now, as a 1080p slash 1440p game as I play it, whether streaming or not. It's gorgeous, and I can't wait to see the 4K HDR version of this, because it really stands out to me as a shout out. And LP Panther, you bring up a great point. There was something that I didn't agree to, and I'm going to mention it. NMS. Play it.
Yeah.
Fair. Fair. I can let it slide for honorable mentions.
Yeah.
You'll have a great time playing it. Universe is huge. Go out and get that game. It's free to play on Xbox Game Pass. But yeah, those are my honorables. Some of the other ones that I have on my list that could trickle into that category, I'm saving for my most anticipated on the most
Perfect.
anticipated episode.
Nice. Love it. All right, Adam.
So for me, I know I started off with my biggest disappointment being Cyberpunk 2077. However, it's also one of my honorable mentions because it's a really good game. When you can play it, all I'm really saying is don't give up on the game. I know there's a lot of criticisms about the game, and it's well deserved. It deserves the criticism that it's receiving. But once they get things ironed out, they get this thing optimized on console the way that it is on PC, and even then, there's some graphical bugs that need to be worked out. Some silly little glitches that have happened. Again, not game breaking stuff by any means, just silly little graphical things that just happen, and they're not even that frequent, at least not for me on PC. So I'm leaving that as an honorable mention. I almost tried to find a way to sneak it into my top 5, but for now it's just an honorable mention. And I hope maybe next year, when people get a chance to play it and it's in a much better condition, I'm hoping that people will get a chance to enjoy it. Also, Fall Guys, a game that I was super hyped for. I had a lot of fun with it. I did burn myself out on it a little bit, so I had to take a break. But I came back on season 3, and let me just say, if they keep this this level of work up, uh, season 3 and beyond are going to be so much fun that I hope people jump back into the game because you hear all the memes. Oh, it's a dead game. Does anyone play this anymore? Hell yeah, there's still people playing this, and as well they should be because it's really great. Final Fantasy 14, gotta add that. I know we talked about it a little bit before. Again, it totally deserves to for people to be playing it. There's still plenty of new content coming out for it. There's great communities, great support for it. Steven, you've been streaming it. We've been seeing a lot of new people jumping into it. The sprouts are coming in. So yeah, great experience of a game. Spider-Man Miles Morales, which didn't make my list quite as much as I really enjoyed that game. I just didn't feel like it topped those other 5 that I picked. Really great. If you loved the Spider-Man from 2018, you're gonna love this game too. And then Paper Mario Origami King is vastly overlooked because it's not the Thousand Year Door sequel or whatever. It's not that old like kind of JRPG style that the first 2 Paper Mario games were. But let me tell you, this game has amazing writing in it. The battle system is surprisingly fun. The puzzle mechanics that they added to it makes you think. It's a real decent time. Finding all the toads. The toads are hysterical in this game. Those toads made me laugh so hard. Some of them, just the things that they do and say, it's ridiculous. There's cheeky little toads. But there's also some heartfelt moments in there too. Let me tell you what, they tugged on the heartstrings a little bit in that game, and I did not expect it. And it was really cool that they did that. But it's not super long. There are RPG elements to it if you're really hung up on the RPG mechanics. There are stuff in there, things that you can do to increase your stats and things that you can equip to kind of change things in battle a little bit. So, and then lastly here, Genshin Impact. It's a really good sort of action RPG game. Don't let people just tell you it's a Breath of the Wild clone, because it's really not. It's sort of its own thing, but it does look like Breath of the Wild, and that's kind of where the similarities end a little bit. The open world experience is kind of similar too, but there's plenty in there to make it unique. Don't worry about the gotcha elements. You don't have to pay real money to have a good time with that game. So there you go.
Right on.
Very cool. So for me, yeah, I want to echo what Adam said about Cyberpunk. I mean, it's such an unfortunate situation because I also debated on putting it in my top 5, and I just couldn't do it with the whole situation around it. It just didn't feel right to me. Even though I did enjoy the game and what I got out of it, it was a good game, a solid game, and definitely once it's polished up and gets a little bit of that spit shine, it's going to be up there in the discussion. But unfortunately, I think it may always have a little bit of a stink on it due to this situation, and it's going to take a lot for them to kind of kick that off. Even once the game's fixed, I mean, people are still going to bring this up, and so hopefully they get it to a point where it's just so good that people forget about the whole situation and I guess forgive the situation, not forget the situation, because this is obviously an issue and this is something we don't want to see again in the gaming industry. But yeah, just wanted to shout out Cyberpunk. Got to shout out Tony Hawk as well. I mean, we already talked about that a little bit, but obviously a great game that I said was also in contention for my top 5. One that I'm surprised Adam didn't mention was Demon's Souls.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed the little I've played. What's that?
It was an oversight on my part. Plus, I
enough.
felt like I was running a little long. So
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I've not played nearly as much as Adam has. I think I've got 2 or 3 hours in the game at this point, but I'm not a Souls guy at all. Star Wars was kind of the first one that got me interested in that as well, as like what Steven was saying. But yeah, Demon's Souls is awesome. Beautiful game. Very beginner friendly, I feel. And yeah, just another one that I'm looking forward to putting some more time into and really giving it the time it deserves. And then I had two more that these are like super quick shout outs that I don't even have a ton to say, but just games that I think didn't get talked about quite as much as they deserved. And that's Streets of Rage 4 and Battletoads, both for kind of the same reason. Revival of classic 2D beat 'em up series that are both solid games. So if you're a fan of that genre or you're looking for something a little bit, kind of pick up and play, those are two great games. They're both on Game Pass, and I highly recommend checking out both of them.
Awesome. So some games I wanted to give a shout out. I also wanted to give a shout out to Fall Guys. Great game, really fun. Again, one of those things that I thought I'd play longer, dropped off like a lot of people did. Hope to play a little bit of this new season though, hopefully going forward. Bug Snacks was a game that I wanted to give a shout out to just because from what I have played of it, it's been really fun and weird. And while it's not a game that like I purposely seek out to play at the moment, right? I got a lot of games on the go. I do hope to come back to it at some point when I find the time to hopefully, play it a little bit. One that seems like it was just such a long time ago is Dreams for the PS4. This was like this game launched in February.
Bunger.
Yeah.
Bunger? Sorry.
you gotta do it, Dreams. This is like a pre-pandemic world. And so it feels longer ago than it actually was, but it was just
Good
February. Yeah. Adam, you and I obviously played this game, and on the show we had I think a couple weeks in a row where we were giving recommendations of games to check out on Dreams. And that game is so cool because it celebrates creativity, right? It celebrates art. It was really awesome to go in there and just see that game. I think I jumped into it, I want to say in October was the last time I jumped into it, and just seeing like all these different creations, some with like even more detail than some of the games I was seeing back in February, which had a handful of games that were really impressive. So to think that like I hope that game continues to get support. I would love to see it somehow. Like I think if they could give that game free in a way, that would maybe bring in more people and expand the community a bit, because I feel like that game has so much potential and has I don't know, I'm not part of the community. Maybe the community is big for Dreams, but I just feel like that game is so impressive with being able to build games and just have this huge collection of different types of games. You can play a first-person horror, you can play a 3D platformer, you can play a puzzle game, like, and they're all created by other people around the world. Like, how cool is that? So I wanted to give a special shout out to that one. And then two other games I wanted to give a shout out to were Glitch98 in the chat, my nephew, he's a big fan of Doom. Doom Eternal came out earlier this year. I didn't want to put it on my list because I haven't beat it yet, but from what I have played of it, it was a lot of fun. They did a lot with kind of expanding it from Doom 2016, which in my eyes was a really solid game. So yeah, it gets a shout out. And then one last thing, or two, sorry, I got two more. Amnesia Rebirth, a franchise that is super well known. Didn't think I would ever see another game in that franchise. Still have to beat it. Really impressed with what I played. And then lastly, a game that I think put about 30-ish hours in. Megan is at 135 hours, and that is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Wow. Really impressed with that game. It's
nice.
Odyssey was like it was fascinating to me because I was like, how is this game not the best game ever? It's humongous. It's the biggest open world game I've ever played. There's so much attention to detail, but it wasn't for me because it was like, whoa, this is a lot. It was like the Skyrim thing, Steven. It was just like, there's way too much to do. I don't know how to tackle it, and it was overwhelming, and I quit out on it. AC Valhalla, condensed. There's still like so much to do. Like clearly, Megan, 135 hours still doing stuff. But they do it in a
Could have
way.
played Persona 5 in that amount of time.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. They did it in a way that kind of didn't feel like, hey, here's like a gazillion things you can do right now. They kind of open it up in a way that doesn't overwhelm you a lot at the beginning. So, yeah, like I kind of put it on hiatus for the time being while I play some Cyberpunk, but I'll for sure come back to that game. Because even Meg, 100 hours into the game, literally found something 2 days ago into the game, a whole new region in that game that I don't want to spoil it in case anyone wants to experience it for themselves, but there's like a whole region in that game that just like is added on, and it's like, man, that's crazy that you can like have that in a game after having played that much. And yeah, Steven, you would get along with Megan, because I swear to God, if I come home from work one more time and she is fishing, I'm gonna lose it.
Is it an RPG if there's no fishing?
Oh
It's a
gosh.
valid question.
Yeah.
Debate.
Cyberpunk's a steaming pile of trash right now because there's no fishing.
Exactly.
If they
That's
just
the big
added
issue
it
here.
in, just go fishing.
Yeah.
It's fine.
That's
Everybody
great.
needs fishing.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think we're ready to go into our game of the year. Excuse me. So Adam and Steven, you guys can duke it out who goes first, but let's hear your number one pick for 2020.
I'm gonna concede to Adam because I deleted his file long ago.
Oh,
And to
gosh.
make up
Finally.
for that in a small way,
Redemption.
Yeah.
I give the floor to Palooza for this one.
Fair. Yeah, so this is going to be Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's a big surprise, right? This game is it makes me want to cry as an adult because Square Enix, they recreated my childhood for current generation platform, and that was amazing to see this world that I knew as a kid. And Steven, you and we experienced the world of Midgar probably more than anybody else, because for the first, I don't know, a couple weeks to a month that we owned that game, we didn't have a memory card.
Yep.
So when we had to shut off the system or we died, we had to start the game
Yeah.
over from the beginning.
the struggle.
But we didn't care because we loved the game so much that we just wanted to keep playing. And to kind of take that experience, even though it's just Midgar, it's basically the first 2 to 3 hours of the original game, and they made a 40-hour RPG out of it. Was amazing, right? You're down underneath the plate and you're looking up and you're seeing what people in that world have been seeing and they're complaining about, right? The people in the slums, they bitch and moan about the plate up overhead, and you can see it firsthand, and it's just so incredible. You see the wall market for the first time, right? You're off in the distance and you can actually see what it looks like from way off, and then you get into it and you're walking around and you experience this area that you only saw from one perspective way back in the day. And
Over what, 3 screens? I think it was just 3 screens worth of wall
3.
market, right?
Mhm.
Wow.
Yep.
Dang.
And so there was and then they took the music, right? Some of the best music in video game history, and they revamped it. They brought that to the new age as well. And when I heard the Sector 5 Slums music for the first time in the remake, I just stopped. I stopped and I listened, and I had to change my pants basically. Yeah. The Craigasm was real. So and then the combat, right? So you take like this the turn-based sort of system that they had from the original, but they change it to a more modern age of gaming, right? You kind of smash the original Final Fantasy VII combat with the Final Fantasy 15 combat, and you get something that's remarkable, and it feels modern but classic and totally manageable. And I'm surprised, Garrett, that it didn't click. I understand that not every game is for everybody, but overall, like, this game exceeded my expectations. They stayed very, very close to the source material, which is what I was afraid of, that they were just going to take this thing way off the rails and turn it into something completely unrecognizable. But they put in their own tweaks, right? They kind of gave it its own life, which I really liked. And we're seeing it take a direction where we're going to see more of that. We're going to see, that same source material, but tweaked just a little bit, you know, to make it more modern and to make it something that really encapsulates that nostalgia, but also makes it interesting for new players. And so I can't wait for the next installment of this game. I'm so excited. I loved it so much. It exceeded expectations for me and was easily my game of the year. Once I played it, nothing came close to taking this away.
And to build on Adam, what Adams had said about this game is, keeping of the original story elements that we've had, but giving us this tease that we may be able to change particular things that may not have settled well with us. It was part of the story back then, but like, there's this opportunity that we have right now with this game going into the next parts to have a change in plot. And I'm okay with it. They made this in a way that I'm okay with the changes that they made, because they did so good doing it. It was just wonderfully crafted. We had talked a little bit about some of the games that we played that had maybe some technical issues. This had zero. It was a glitch-free, graphically gorgeous experience from beginning to end. I ran into no issues,
It have
no
spots
crashes.
with texture issues and background quality issues, so there was that. But
I didn't even notice them. If it was really there. Speaking of backgrounds, how about the part? I think the part that was most like kind of emotionally soul crushing was whenever you roll up over the hill and you see in the distance the pillar, and there's a battle going on. And as an original player of the Final Fantasy story, you know that this part coming up that you're about to walk into is like one of the most devastating to your group of friends that you've made in this game. And you look off in the distance and you see this battle going on around it. I stopped for a second. I took a picture because I knew that looking at this, or at least I thought anyway, that there was people in this game that I wasn't going to see again, that they weren't going to be there. And they built their characters so well throughout the rest of the game before that it made me sad, as opposed to almost uncaring and ready to move on to the next part in the original game, because you became attached to these characters that they built, this brand new game around, basically. And not only was it the characters, but the city itself, under the plate. Again, there's a little bit of indifference because you don't get to really meet people or see the scope and size and the deplorableness of the environment that these folks lived in. You get a sense of that in this game for certain. They build on this, and the emotional value that came along with this game from being an original player, it took it all to the next level. The main character, Cloud, in the original game, he was very quiet, soft-spoken. You never really understood the character very well because there wasn't much there to go off of. Now we have body language, facial expressions that came along with him. And he resonated with me a lot more than what he did in the original, as a character who has seen some stuff in his past, suffered a lot, and now is kind of dealing with that suffering. And then you get to see him almost come alive a little bit as a character as he meets Tifa, Aerith, Barrett. You get to see his personality start to come out a little bit more. He starts to become a person for you again. So Adam hit on that really great stuff, the music, the combat, and everything like that. But the emotional experience with the characters that you get to learn about, as well as the environment growing, it took Midgar from this 3-4 hour experience over the course of maybe 15 total screens or something like that, and has now turned it into this 40-hour game in this environment that you just love exploring and being in and learning about. It was a perfect game, and that is why it made my number one this year.
Yeah, and they added. I really liked what they did because when you think about the first game, right, you're very limited on equipment and like spells and your skills and things like that. And they expanded on that, right? You have more weapons at your disposal. There's and each weapon sort of has its own uh unique customizations that you can make to it, and you get more equipable your materials and stuff. There's more of that made available to you that you didn't have in the original one. So they just take you know, all the things from the original game and they just expand it and make it better. And yeah, the whole thing with Cloud, like his sort of his kind of coming to life as a real boy, as it were, comes much, it now we get to see it in the Midgar portion, whereas in the original game it comes really, kind of way further down the line. And also what you were saying before, now we're seeing an opportunity where they can maybe uh, mess around with the original story and maybe come up with something a little bit different, which maybe people are a little nervous about. But I think what we're seeing, the direction that it's going, um, is actually we're going to find is going to be really special and something still very great. And we're still going to have those all the areas. Like we have Midgar, that's just one area. All the other places that we visited in the original game, they're still going to come in at some point, and we're going to get to experience those areas again for another time.
Cosmo Canyon, like
Yeah,
I just keep on thinking about the second part coming up to this. Like, there's so many different places that have an emotional resonance to them already from the original game, that now we have this whole thing that they started in the first one. It's
Right.
just like, good Lord Almighty,
Yeah,
Bugenhagen.
it's going to be absolutely incredible. And it there, another spot that I really want to talk about, but it gets spoilery. I mean, I know the game is 30 years old at this point, but I don't want to get into spoiler territory. But basically, there's a spot where you go where you're looking for a certain individual, and I'm really excited to see that area. I know that's extremely vague, but it's meant to be. That's sort of the whole game, I guess you could say. But
Go in the find a person.
yeah, and we'll say it's in the northern section of the map. So if you know what's up there, then maybe that gives a better clue. So yeah, I can't wait to see what this game has in store. I love this game so much. So yeah, game of the year, easy choice.
Awesome. Well said, guys.
Very good.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you guys this. This Final Fantasy VII Remake is. There's been examples in the past of me playing a game, enjoying it a little bit, and then something derailing it for me, and then I come back to it later, and it ends up being one of the games. There's an example this year. I'm not going to get into it right now of that happening, and it's one of my favorite games now. So. I'm going to give this game another chance because the emotion and the everything that I just saw out of you guys. I mean, I got to at least see it through the end of the first chapter here and see if it doesn't make a dent in me there. So I will commit to you that at some point in 2021, I'm going to finish that game. I may even restart it and go from the top. So
hold him to it.
Okay. Yeah. Hold me to it.
All right. So unless you want to pull a fast one on me, Garrett, but I'm 99.9% sure we're on the same page here, man. But just in case, maybe I'll let you go first and tell.
Okay.
So real quick, I didn't put this in my honorable mentions because I didn't want to fully tip my hat as to what my game of the year was.
You didn't put the Pokemon Sword and Shield DLC because that's my game of the year.
Exactly.
I had to do it again. Last year I
is
tricked everyone. It does seem like it's pretty awesome. So I would love to check that out. But no, you guys are right. It's The Last of Us Part 2. And that's the game that I previously had written off was the first Last of Us. I tried it. I played 3 or 4 hours. I said, I understand what this is all about. Not really for me, and dipped out. This year, as things kind of were ramping up towards the launch of The Last of Us 2, I had Adam and Luke both telling me, you got to play The Last of Us. You got to give it the shot, man, among other people as well. And so I finally, I saw it on sale one day on PSN. This was maybe 2 weeks before Last of Us Part 2 came out, and I bit the bullet, paid about $10, I think, and started the game up, and I was hooked from the moment I started playing, and really just blew through the game, honestly. Couple days, I think, and yeah, at that point I was like, okay, I understand the hype, and I'm ready for The Last of Us Part 2. And I don't think I was quite prepared for what they actually ended up delivering. It was, quite honestly, I think the best story I've ever experienced in a video game. And to be quite honest, I think I need a redo on our best game of the generation episode, because I think in my mind it has overtaken Death Stranding for me as the best game that's come out this generation. So
It's a game that makes
yeah, well, yeah, very, very true. Yeah, so I mean, for me, it's just a masterclass in storytelling. The mechanics of the game, the gameplay is nothing revolutionary, but it's solid. It works. It gets you from point A to point B in terms of the story. And I feel like they did do a lot to actually improve the gameplay from part one. And that was one of my major hangups the first time I tried part one, was the gameplay not feeling like all that special. And so I think they did a good job refining that in part two, and making it, more enjoyable and but for, like I said, for me, it's all a vehicle for the story. And I think we need more games like this in the industry to push us forward and make this industry be taken as seriously as film and TV and stuff like that. Because there's a lot you can do in an interactive format like a video game, and we're not seeing a ton of people take the leap and really turn it into a high art form. And I feel like this game is high art, something that will be talked about in history books 100 years from now. So this game's incredible. I think it's one of the best games probably come out in the last decade. So I don't know what else more I can say about it. This is, again, another, all these games were games we did reviews on that were on my list. So we gave our thoughts ad nauseum on that review episode. So not much more to say there. It's just a bang up game, and one that I think is very, very special.
All right, I was correct in predicting your game of the year there. Yes, Last of Us Part 2, my game of the year, easily. Once I played the game, I knew it was pretty much locked in, no matter how much fun. And this is before I knew what Cyberpunk would be. I knew, like, there was no way of topping that for me, because the emotional investment I had in that game was like no other game I've played. For context, I played the original back in 2017, I believe, late 2016 maybe. I played the first game in like 2 single sessions, or like single, without stopping. I think it was two sessions, and yeah, loved the game, right? Like everyone knows Last of Us Part 1, phenomenal video game. And Adam, you and I talked a lot on the show about Last of Us Part 2. Do we need to see a sequel for this game? That first game was just so exceptional. Do we really need to know what happens after that? The first game ends off on a bit of a cliffhanger, and you think, okay, they could address that. But when Last of Us Part 2 came out, that was not the focus of the narrative in that game. That was kind of a point that they addressed, and it was talked about, but it wasn't one of those things that was the focus of the game. They brought this whole new arc that I wasn't really expecting, and it just worked for me. Like the way that they split that game up between again, I'm trying my best to keep from spoiler talk for anyone who wants to play this game themselves, but just how they did that was absolutely I really liked it. It really spoke to me. It allows you to feel one thing for one character and make you question that. And I like that challenge that the developer gave me, right? I like to be challenged in that sense, because what was clear in the first Last of Us is that you may think you know these characters and you may be attached to these characters, but you don't necessarily know everything about these characters, and this may be a video game, but you don't necessarily get to decide the fate of these characters. And a lot of people had a challenge kind of dealing with that. And I think that was even more prominent in the second one. They took that theme that they introduced in the first game and just like really expanded it with kind of the undertones of the narrative. And I think about this game frequently. I think back to so many like incredible moments in the story where the plot just we're hitting climax, and it made such an impact on me that I would end game sessions and literally before I went to bed or whatever, just like in my mind recap what I had experienced, how I felt about that. And I don't know any video game ever that I've ever done that, not even the first Last of Us. I'll think about scenes in that game that when I played through them, I cried because it was so emotional, and I felt like it was delivered so exceptionally. And I can think about them now just on demand and almost feel that same emotion. And that's pretty incredible that a video game can do that to somebody. And as someone who loves video games, I've never had such a visceral experience like that before. So yeah, you nailed it, Garrett, when you said that people are going to be talking about this game for a long time. I understand people's criticisms of the game. I understand that people might have not agreed with certain narrative choices in it, and that's totally fine, because those are all subjective opinions. You can have your own opinion on what you would rather have happened to the characters, but for me, I loved being a bystander to this story that was delivered to me. Whether I agreed with choices that happened to certain characters or not, I was totally enthralled with the experience. And it's an exceptional game. I think everyone should experience that franchise if you love narrative heavy video games. And yeah, it's again, we did 2 episodes on this game, so if you want thoughts on it that are a little more fleshed out and detailed, hit up those reviews. But yeah, really solid game.
Yeah. One more thing I'll say is that I think a lot of the quote unquote controversy around this game can be summed up in this, that the game's a lot about perspective, and it plays with perspective a lot. And I think that the people that just vehemently hate on this game, perspective is probably what they're lacking. That's not allowing them to enjoy this game. It makes me feel like they are lacking the ability to put themselves in someone else's shoes or experience a story that's not tailor-made for them specifically. And so, I would just say to anyone who enjoys this game, hates this game, whatever, just think about perspective and kind of, take it in for what it is. Not everything has to conform to what, your thoughts and what your, point of view on things has to be. And so I just think that if people give this game a chance, no matter how they may feel about what they've heard about it, that they'll end up enjoying it if they can just go in with an open mind and let the story take them where it does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for The Last of Us 2, I don't think there's any game this year that came out that had such a huge impact on the gaming community like The Last of Us 2, right? Me and Adam, we just talked at length about Final Fantasy VII Remake, but there's kind of a niche crew there, right? Those of us who had played the original, some of us who have never played a Final Fantasy and just going into this one the first time, but it never resonated through the gaming community like The Last of Us 2 did, right? I can't deny that. I may have yelled rigged every time it came up during the Game Awards during the stream, but it's not like Death Stranding rigged. It's like this game hit hard. It hit home for a lot of people. It's a cinematic experience as much as what it is a gaming experience. And having never played the Last of Us games at all, I can't deny that fact. I cannot deny the fact that that game has resonated so well out there and generated so much discussion about a video game that it deserves to be in that number one spot for you guys. That's something that I looked at a lot, and I kind of wish that I could get into it and that I would enjoy it, but it's just not that type of game for me. I haven't even played Uncharted, just to kind of give you an idea about that kind of cinematic experience in a video game. Um, it's just the type of game that resonates with me, but I see that stuff, and it's hard to deny The Last of Us 2's place in this world, in our industry, as one of those top dog games for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a game that, like, going forward, obviously, like, if I ever come into conversation with somebody who doesn't know anything about video games, I'm probably not going to be able to convince them to go out and buy a console and play a 35-hour video game. But I use this game to talk about with people who maybe don't take video games seriously, the medium seriously. They see it as something that is just for children, or it's silly nonsense, or it's a waste of time. There's people that aren't in our community, right? They write video games off. I use this as a conversation point to say, here's the things that a video game can do. And it's not just the subject matter of the game, it's all the things that we've already mentioned here tonight. And yeah, I can't wait. Like you said, like it shook up the industry when it released, and we're gonna see the ripples of that in the years to come. We're gonna be talking about games, and we're gonna be comparing it to, oh, they're doing something similar to like that. We're gonna see it just like those big games, like Breath of the Wild, or it's
the Destiny comparisons.
Yeah, the Destiny or the Souls like or whatever. Like it's planted its flag as like, hey, we are a face of what video games can be. So
Absolutely.
it's a great game. All right, well, there we have it, guys. Final Fantasy VII and Last of Us Part 2 are two game of the years for Games Are Fun. They get the GAF award for the game of the year, even split, and I really like that because I think both those games are pretty deserving of those that recognition. So
solid games, different reasons too.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Yeah, they could not be any more different from each other. Yeah. All right. So now it is time for I guess we're gonna do some Fantasy Critic, I think is what we had on the agenda next.
Do we have to look at this?
Go over, was it the question of the week?
I was gonna do Fantasy Critic real quick because I didn't think we'd spend too much time talking about, because I know it's late for you guys there on the East Coast. So let's do a quick recap of our Fantasy Critic, and then we can go into what your guys' responses were for question of the week. Let's see if this works the way I wanted it to. Oh, that totally did not work the way I wanted it to, but how do I do this? Maybe if I go like this, and then we get rid of, let's just do this. I think that worked. Maybe. Yes. I don't know. There we go.
See it. It's not. Yeah, you're good.
Trying to host the show while also run it simultaneously, which has been interesting. All right. So, Fantasy Critic. This is something that, I can't scroll. God damn it. Okay, one sec. I got to pull this up because it is, let's just do.
So if you go into OBS and you start a new, I have to open it up so I can guide you through this. 1 second.
I could just do this.
Just do like a window capture.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do.
A window capture.
I thought I could get away with a browser. Oh, see, this is why I didn't want that to happen, because it's pulling from...
The browser thing in OBS is busted. Like I tried to use it. I tried to use it for the Game Awards, just to kind of make a clearer window, right? But it's a piece of crap and it doesn't work
Yeah.
really well. So if you just do a window
it,
capture,
it has its uses for very specific things, but
Mhm.
it's not for this.
All right, I think. Where is it? There we go. Everyone should be able to see that. Okay,
there it is.
There it is. All right. So we, at the beginning of the year, I think like halfway through January, beginning of February, I think is when we started this, guys. But basically, this is like a fantasy league, but for video games. So our fantasy team name is a publisher. So we got LPP Productions, Gaff Games, Project Palooza Inc., and Level Grind Entertainment. So right off the bat, we have to give congratulations to Garrett for winning this year's Fantasy Critic. He got 159 points in total. So, and not only that, he got that score with also not filling 2 game spots. So he beat us out, and he had less games than all 3 of us.
It wasn't
Well, if you count my one that didn't release.
True, yeah.
True. It wasn't the stomping that it was looking like there when the Cyberpunk reviews first came out, and it was like a 91. Because then I was in like the 170s or 180s, and I was like, oh my gosh, I like ran away with this. But yeah, I haven't looked at it till right now since then. So yeah, I came back down to earth a little bit. It ended up being a lot closer than expected. So. I had a lot of fun with this, guys, and I think next year I want to take a look at the rules on the website. I have a couple ideas I think that might be pretty fun. Maybe potentially we get on Twitch and do our draft live on Twitch, and maybe potentially even let a couple viewers hop in and run a team as well, something like that. I don't know. Maybe we could run a contest to have a couple other people in here and kind of make the rosters a little bit smaller, make a little bit more competition for those big games. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of my acceptance speech for the championship here. I'm just ready to do it all over again next year, and let's have a fun time with it again, because it was a lot of fun to keep track
I will
of.
say I have an opportunity to take second place. It all hinges on Super Meat Boy Forever coming up here at the end of the month. So
it is possible, yeah. We'll find out in the new year, first episode back, if you're able to dethrone. What would the score need to be? Like a 95 or higher
to get first place?
98.
For first place, it would need to be extremely high. To take second place, I only need it to get me 8 points.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it needs to be 78 or
78. Yeah.
I think you have a pretty good shot.
I think that's doable. Yeah.
Yeah. Next year, I definitely want to hand the reins to you, Garrett, because I started this thing, and I should have just like got you guys to run it, especially Garrett. I know you're so well versed when it comes to fantasy leagues. It's like, I don't know anything about this, and these guys are telling me like, why don't you have this rule? Why don't you? I'm like, guys, I don't even understand what's going on right now. But yeah, a lot of fun. A couple things. We don't have to go over all these games, but you know, looking at our first round picks, Cyberpunk was the big surprising one. I thought that was going to be a lock for you, but all of us hit pretty high. You know, I lucked out. I got the very, very first pick. So that I lucked out with Last of Us Part 2 there. But, you know, Ghost of Tsushima, Final Fantasy VII Remake, bringing in great points for both of you guys there. We did have some bad experiences, though. For me, I took a chance, Predator Hunting Grounds. I had to subtract to -13 from that one. I thought they learned from Friday the 13th, and they could have pulled away from that. I will say, having played the game, it was a lot of fun. But for you, Garrett, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, only a 6 points for a Call of Duty game, which I found very interesting. Yeah, your lowest game. Sure. Yeah, it is your lowest game. So.
Wow, I didn't even realize that. That's horrible.
Moving on to basically the biggest fail of the year, Level Grind Entertainment. We got.
I got right. Warcraft
So
3
many
Warforged.
negatives.
Yeah.
I know. Like Warcraft 3 Warforged is the one that I'm probably like most angry about because you expect a reforge, remake, something for a game to look better whenever it comes around. This thing was just ported, basically. It was just a
Yeah.
PC port from a
And a
PC
bad
game.
port at that.
Yeah, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, what
Strip
a
features and stuff. Yeah.
Blizzard! Curses!
Yeah.
But yeah, Godfall I think is unwarranted. I'm not as upset about that because I know it didn't review well, but like I think the game's fantastic. And then the other one, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, and again, it just because it ended up just being a port, and they killed me. I just got annihilated by
And
bad
you
scores.
got a 0 on Destroy All Humans.
Yeah, that one didn't go well. I kind of for some of those, again, what I want to see change is the ability to swap games out, right? So kind of on the fly, be able to just go in, see what games are yet to be released, and be able to swap things out. It slowed me down because if you look onto my fantasy football games, teams that I play, I am on the waiver wire constantly every week, cycling players in and out. Right? I kind of lost that in this, where I would go in, put a bid in for something. I made like 4 bids this season to do swaps, and no excuse for Warforged and Godfall I was sticking with, but something like Crystal Chronicles, like if I would have had a little bit of an opportunity, that would be my insight for next year. Just make it a little quicker to.
If there's a way to do that, I would love that. I'm not sure if it's built into the system. For instance, the way that I do my football leagues is that we do bid, but we bid every day. There's a every day at 11 a.m. there's a run, and so if whoever's put in bids in the last 24 hours, their bids go through. So if they had some way to do that where they could process the bids every day, that would alleviate a lot of that, I think, where you're not waiting, a week to be able to see if you got your next game.
Yeah, I think some of the settings are a little more restrictive than most fantasy leagues, but Garrett, like you'll know a lot more of like some of the lingo and can probably, I think next year, and next year, man, like it's supposed to be, it looks at least right now looks pretty stacked for games, so we can have a lot of fun there next year.
Yeah, because we got Halo Infinite, possible Fable, we've got
God of War Ragnarok, possibly.
Yeah, God of War,
Horizon Forbidden West, New World,
Baldur's Gate 3.
So I would, while we're taking a look at this, I do want to toot my horn a little bit and say that I had the game with the highest score.
Yes.
Which was Persona 5 Royal. It got me 28 points.
Crazy.
And
it beat Microsoft Flight Simulator?
It did, yeah.
Yeah, by 5 points.
Wow.
Yeah.
Persona 5 Royal is one of like the best reviewed games of all time on Metacritic now. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second was Last of Us, and then I think Microsoft Flights or Half-Life Alyx also got a 24.
Alyx. Yeah.
So a lot of fun. Can't wait to do it again next year with you guys.
Yeah, it'll be a good time.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at this. Just another quick point here, I guess, is Steven's team had a lot of really heavy hitters, and then he had those critical misses too that like just totally offset everything he was doing.
Yeah, my top 4 there.
Yeah, look at that.
I had some great and then Crusader Kings 3, right, sitting down there rounding out the bottom of the team. Like I had some really nice ones.
Yeah, definitely.
Stupid ass Warforged.
God, come on, Super Meat Boy.
Yeah,
Blizzard.
Get Daddy in the second place.
All right, let's bring us all back up on screen here and close out the show with some of the fan responses. There we go.
Some good ones. There's some really good ones.
Yeah, we got some great responses from you guys. All right, so give me one sec here to bring it up. So obviously last week we asked you guys, what is your game of the year? And we got a bunch of responses. I think we got some on Twitter as well as our Discord. So I'm going to go over to Twitter first and read out those responses. All right, so we got one response over on Twitter from Danny at MadHatter1138 _ He says, Last of Us Part 2, still can't stop thinking about that game. And then over on our Games Are Fun Discord server, we got a couple responses here. First of all, we got Dean C474, who is Coleman Dean, friend of the show. The Last of Us 2 has to be my game of the year. I didn't have any other games this year I enjoyed nearly as much. It's got to be The Last of Us Lukewarm Lewis, also friend of the show. It's got to be Last of Us Part 2 for me as well. I've never been so engaged in a game's narrative and cared so much about the characters. I also think the art direction of the game is unreal and adds a very compelling level of realism to the game. Nishon says, definitely Animal Crossing New Horizons, the perfect storm of a life sim and the never-ending quarantine made for one of the most engaging, time-consuming, and relaxing gaming experiences of 2020. We're still playing it today and probably will be well into 2021.
That's a big amen, Nishon. Amen.
All right. Anything you guys want to throw in the Twitch chat? If you want to give any shout outs in the games of the year, now would be the time to do it. But I think we're all it's pretty clear that 2020, man, like obviously like I played more games this year than any other year previously, mostly because of the quarantine and everything like that. But if we just look at what games released, like this was a good year of gaming, and I think it's going to be one of those years that's looked back. You know, we pick out certain years that's like, you know, 2018 stands out as a stellar year. 2017 was also an exceptional year. Like 2020 is going to be one of those years that we look back and look at all the games that came out that year and just be pretty surprised by how many incredible experiences there were. So, yeah, it was pretty great. Going back over into the chat, Polar Ninja 23 says, game of the year for me was Among Us. That game definitely helped bring friends together and gave them a way to spend time and have fun during the pandemic. Yeah,
call each other liars.
Yes.
So good.
So much fun, that game. And then we got Sashi. Am I pronouncing that right? I think I got corrected earlier this morning. Sashi? Okay.
Sashi.
Nod to Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Not for game of the year. I just want it to know I'm looking at it right now. Perfect.
Find you someone that looks at you the same way Sashi looks at Monster Hunter World Iceborne.
Yeah. Meg Radtack 1995 in the chat says, while Assassin's Creed Valhalla is so good, The Last of Us 2 is my fave game this year and probably of all time. That makes me happy, Meg. Way to go. All right, well, I guess that's gonna conclude it, guys, for the last episode of Games Are Fun for 2020.
Wait, there's one more. Doom Eternal was my game of the year because it was fast-paced and full of action, and it was just so awesome. Or you were just so awesome. Were you awesome at the game? I was just so awesome. You were the Glitch. You were the best Doom guy ever. That's what we're going with.
I like it. All right, guys. Well, yeah, that concludes our episode. So before I go here, not to, again, I did this last year, but for real, guys, I cannot thank Garrett, Adam, Steven, you guys enough for just the commitment you guys have had to Games Are Fun this year. I think this year has been the biggest growth we've seen. I think we've been able to start build a community. Garrett, we brought you on full time. You had to take that break with the little one coming, but you know, I was just so impressed that even though with that you came back and were committed to helping out the show even when you were on that hiatus and everything like that. It was so awesome to have your support with that. Steven, of course, for you as someone who is not one of the you're officially now a member, but for someone who has just come on a couple episodes, for you to constantly be supporting and promoting Games Are Fun. Like, I cannot thank you enough how much that means to me, and I'm sure the other guys too. And you've been a huge key member in growing Games Are Fun, building a community. I mean, it's clear here today, even in Twitch chat, we have your regulars in your stream. So shout out to everyone, all you in the Twitch chat coming out and representing. Yeah, thank you so much
Yeah.
for that.
Kingdom came out tonight. It's fantastic, and I will say it again. I appreciate you guys, making it official, bringing me in with you, and again providing just this amazing opportunity. And I cannot wait to see what we do this year. We've got stuff listed already, and I'm excited to bring it all to fruition with you. I think it's going to be great and easy support, easy.
Absolutely, Adam. Huge shout out to you, man, because you literally helped me take this podcast from just being literally in the spare bedroom here with a laptop on a little TV tray, my microphone on a stack of boxes, to being a real show and having a co-host that I can count on every single week to back me up and to provide content. Like, if I wouldn't have brought you on back last year, I don't think we would have gone this point with Games Are Fun. So yeah, I just wanted to thank you for how integral you've been to the show. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and can't wait for 2021, guys, because I think it's going to be a really solid year. We got a lot of goals planned, and I can't wait to execute on them.
And the biggest thing, chat, and to all the listeners, all of this stuff that we've got planned is all for you guys. And and honestly, like, I wouldn't even be in position to be offered a spot here if it weren't for you tuning in and listening each week that they provide an episode. So of course, there's a ton of appreciation that goes out to all of you that are in chat right now, all of you that are going to be listening to this on the podcast. We do it for you, and we wouldn't be here without you. So thank you as well.
For sure.
Yep. And of course, we our ringleader here, Luke. This is your platform, man. This is your creation, and I'm very appreciative that you brought me along for the ride, and I've certainly enjoyed all of it, and I can't wait to see I can't wait for everyone to see what we have in store for 2021, and new content that we're going to bring. It's it's all really exciting. And I mean, you put in just a boatload of work just this month alone with the extra live stream, and now setting this up. Like, yeah, just excellent work. Great team that we got here, and can't wait to keep rolling.
Thank you.
Yeah, your technical work on that marathon, Luke, solid.
He took like 3 or 4 days off after that because it
was a long day, and if you caught that stream, you can see I let loose a little bit when we got to Among Us, because it was a lot of work to put into it. So I really appreciate the recognition on that. Thanks, guys.
Yep, for sure. And to both you, Adam and Luke, I do appreciate a lot you guys being flexible with me this year. And I told Luke when he asked me if I wanted to join up front that actually he was one of the first people I told that we were going to be having another baby, because I wanted to make sure he knew that it was going to be a situation where I was going to probably have to take some time off and, occasionally last minute not be available. So I just appreciate you guys sticking with me, letting me be a part of the team, and being, flexible with me and allowing me the chance to be here when I can, and the freedom to skip if I really need that freedom. So I just appreciate being a part of this team, guys, and I'm looking forward to what we do next year as well.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that concludes it for this episode of Games Are Fun. Let's all plug ourselves. So I'll start with you, Steven. Where can people find you?
You can find me everywhere. Make sure. Oh wait, it's over here.
That one. There you
can
go.
Find me. You can find me anywhere. Twitter. You can find me on Twitch at Lordly King Esnot, all over the place, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to about 12 p.m. You can join me in the kingdom as we play some Final Fantasy 14. I also do nighttime streams every once in a while, and every once in a while I'll do stuff on Twitter and Instagram as well. All the same name. I'm that good at the branding.
Right on. Adam?
I'm on both Twitch and Twitter at AdamPalooza85, relatively newly minted affiliate. Thanks
Yes.
everybody that helped out, helped me obtain that goal. It's really helping me to kind of expand a little bit with what I want to do with my channel. So much appreciated. So yep, find me on either of those platforms. Pretty much the only two places I hang out: Twitch, Twitter at AdamPalooza85.
Great. How about you, Garrett?
Yep, I'm LP Panther everywhere, Twitter, and looking to get into some Twitch in the new year. So if you guys want to go ahead and follow me, it's LP Panther as well. If you want me to earn it, you stop by for that first stream, and I'll earn your follow then. So you can just follow me on Twitter then if you want to make me earn it, and I'll let you guys know when I'm getting into some streams here in the new year. So
perfect. You can follow me on Twitter at LukeAllenArm. Follow me on twitch.tv/Luke the Llama. Again, big shout out to Adam, Garrett, Steven. A lot of these people in chat right now for helping me reach affiliate today. That was incredible. The work is just beginning, and yeah, can't wait for that. Make sure you follow the show on Twitter at Games Are Fun Pod, Instagram at Games Are Fun Pod. If you're on Facebook still, facebook.com/Games Are Fun Podcast. And then we do have that community Discord where we're always talking in there pretty much every day, which is invite.gg/Games Are Fun. Adam just threw it up in the chat there. So make sure you join if you want to take part in gaming discussion. We also talk about lots of all sorts of other things there. Fantasy football, food, movies, TV shows, pretty much anything. If you're just looking for a group of people to chat with, that's a great place to do it. So once again, invite.gg/Games Are Fun. All right. So we're going to wrap it up here for podcast audiences. Again, we're going to be back probably the week of after January 11th. We're taking at least 2 weeks off. We'll have to figure out in the new year when we're going to make our return. So no earlier than January 11th, but we'll be back. And like we've been saying, for real, we got some fun content planned. We can't wait to show you guys that in the new year. So thanks again for listening to this episode of Games Are Fun, and we will talk to you all in the new year. All right, and Twitch chat, I'll end off the podcast recording there. Twitch shout out to you guys for sticking around in the stream. Really appreciate you guys engaging. There was lots of chatter there today, and it just makes the show really fun. It honestly, like, I would do this in a heartbeat again, right? Like, clearly this has been a lot of fun engaging with chat while we do the show live, right?
You guys had me at points where I almost lost it.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
I know.
yeah, I looked up at one point about
Nishan, I don't
something
know,
serious,
like,
and you guys are busting out.
You guys, Nishan, if you were taking the role on to try and have us break, you were hitting it, dude. You were hitting it.
Yeah.
But Polar,
And
thanks for coming by too, man. Sashi, appreciate
there
you
was
guys.
a second
Thank you.
Polar in chat that made the comment about this stream is
Yeah.
the evolution of beards.
Yeah.
And I had to try really hard
That
not
was
to just
gold.
like lose it right there. Yeah, that was
very good.
perfect.
Very good.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Really good. All right. If you haven't done so already, consider hitting that follow button because we got a lot of gameplay, some party games planned for the next year on this Twitch channel. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in. We're gonna sign off for now, and we'll be back in 2021. Oh, Steven?
One last thing, because we're new streamers, right? We're all new streamers here. Garrett's starting up soon. You and Palooza just hit affiliates, right? I'm newish, so we kind of understand that struggle to move forward and improve the streams and get to that affiliate status and really get into where the fun begins, right? So what I'd like to do is take a moment, because we've got two really great streamers in here right now, is Nishan and Sashi Glory are really great streamers. And I want to say that everybody in Twitch chat right now, go and follow these two, okay? Because you're going to have a lot of fun, especially if you're Nintendo fans or Monster Hunter fans. Those two guys will keep you entertained for hours on end whenever their streams go up. So I encourage you to go and do a follow with them because they're glorious. And of course, follow these guys too. Forget me. I'm just nonsense in the morning. You want nothing to do with this. But all three of the other guys here, Luke put on a great show with Rocket League this morning.
Yeah, it was a lot of
got
fun.
to rate them. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, no problem. And then we got Palooza, who is a true born variety streamer. Like, I know I say that I'm a variety streamer, but I'm totally not. I'm totally not a fantasy streamer. I play a game every so often, some other time, but true blue variety streamer. Also follow him. He's got things like Demon Souls going on. He does ROM hacks for Mario and all sorts of cool stuff. He did Haven. What else? What else am I missing that you did? There was something.
I was playing Animal Crossing recently.
He's on a big holiday kick right now.
Yeah,
So-
a lot of festive stuff. Yeah, Fall Guys, I was just playing some of that fairly recently. And this To the Moon game I've been hearing about in chat. Maybe I'll have to stream that.
Yeah.
Right.
That sounds like something I'd be into.
And then this one right over here. He's getting ready. He's getting gear. He's just got some gear ordered. He may have. Did it arrive yet? Did you get it?
Not yet. I think we've got the first piece of gear is coming tomorrow. I think so.
Yeah. So he's
Still
got
a little
gear.
overhaul on this situation. We're gonna get an actual computer chair going on.
He's building right now. So drop him a follow because it's coming. It's coming.
It's coming.
Right on.
And he just subscribed to Final Fantasy 14. He's a brand new sprout too. On Cactar.
Yeah.
On Cactar, Sashi. On Cactar Polar. He's there. He's there with us. So,
And
that
the
level
best
8.
part,
level
follows are free. They cost you nothing. And it
Yes.
goes a long way to help out people's channels.
Absolutely.
And then you get the wide breadth of content that we're going to be creating over the next year, which is going to be kind of big. Like, you guys are getting the special treatment right now because you're in our Twitch chat, and I love Twitch chat. Sorry, Luke, I'm taking over the show right now.
No, you're good, man.
We're going to have a ton of stuff coming for you on this platform as well as the podcast, and it's going to be fun. It is going to be fun. If this marathon that we just did is any indication to what you can look forward to from all of us, like, you're going to have a good time. We're going to be a group to keep an eye on for sure.
Absolutely.
I may be biased, but
no, for real. Like,
okay.
it's not just like, hey, we're increasing streams. Like, there's like brand new content that we have not announced yet that's coming your way next month. So it's really exciting. So awesome stuff. All right, let's see. I gotta see if I can raid someone because I gotta pass on the good.
For another podcast, but I didn't really see anything that caught my eye.
Anyone
So if
on
you
my?
guys have somebody.
Just trying to see if there's anyone on mine that's helped out. You know what? Let's throw it over to my friend here, Tommy Dime. He's a Rocket League streamer. I know him from going to school with him. So we're gonna raid him. All right. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.